most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield 2.
Thank you.
European Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted. Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to the big kickoff. Similar to the great end of an era Town video from the 1990s, we'll be telling stories from Saturday's opening day victory at Peterborough, whilst Town's game against Morecambe in the Carabao Cup runs simultaneously alongside the podcast. Joining me and being a part-time supporter this evening, it's now full-time Ian Kilroy-Silk. You all right, mate?
Yeah, not too bad.
Fantastic. And we've also got a fresh new signing, and that's Jay Singh. How are you doing, Jay?
Good, Matt.
Excellent. Okay, so Town are currently in action as we speak against Morecambe. I'm struggling to get my Sky Sports Plus app to work, so I may be distracted momentarily at times while I'm trying to get this to work, but the guys, I'm sure, will fill me in as and when we can. Right, okay, so we've not quite sorted a sponsor out just yet. I've had a few expressions of interest, and thank you very much to who's got in touch with regards to that as well, and I will be reaching back out to people as soon as possible in the next day or two on that one. Right, guys, okay, Peterborough United 0, Huddersfield Town 2. What a day. Our first away victory on the opening day since the 12th of August 2017, when Huddersfield Town went to Crystal Palace in the Premier League and won 3-0. Saturday was the Western Home Stadium in League One, but to me that didn't make it any less enjoyable. Killer, there's been a goal at the game.
Already, honestly, just when you're
no music, they've got goal music going. It's like Ken Davies back.
not you didn't even say so much as hello, and Sorensen's tried to put one cross in, it's been blocked, come back out to him, he's recycled it, put another kind of cross come shot in, and keeper's really just kind of pushed it into his own goal. It's really poor keeping by the Morecambe goalkeeper, but there you go, Matt. What an impact we've had already. 2 minutes we've been here and we're already 1-0 up.
Exactly. Maybe we're banishing those ghosts from when we started the podcast and everything went wrong for Huddersfield Town. Right, fantastic. Huddersfield 1-0 up, and we don't win cup games usually, do we? So we probably might not still win cup games if we keep talking like that and jinxing things. But Huddersfield Town 1-0 up straight away against Morecambe, or Morecambe, however you pronounce it. Okay, so what I was saying through the intro, Town last time they won a home game was the last time they won the first game of the season was 3-0 at Crystal Palace. The Western Home Stadium in League One. But to be fair, it didn't make it any less enjoyable than the Crystal Palace one at Peterborough on Saturday. Me and a friend of mine, we turned up an hour or so before kickoff, saw Jay outside. I reckon Jay's about 6'3", killer, and could play centre-back for us. But I remember walking in. So we went into the ground. Very strange. You kind of walk in and there's a brick wall in front of you and a tiny little gap to sneak through. Pretty much straight up to the seats, wooden seats like Burnley away. And then it was quite funny to hear quite a lot of Town fans under the age of 25 who obviously have spent the last 12 years going to decent away grounds like Old Trafford and Wembley and Man City, etc., and a lot of championship grounds, talking negatively about Peterborough Stadium. A lot of it's tin at the back. Like I said, the gangways are small. There's not many concessionary parts to it if you can find it. But grizzled old vets like me and you, Killer, actually quite like grounds like this. It was the fourth time I've been. Restricted view, wooden seats, cutting into your knees. I've missed this more than I thought I would, to be fair. Jay, it was your first time at Peterborough. It's my fourth time at Peterborough. Your first. How was the Western Homes Stadium experience for you?
I loved it. It was those grounds that you don't really get anymore. You have to excuse my dog barking. Yeah, I I really, really enjoyed it. For me, I'm trying to tick off as many grounds as possible. I'm only 20, been following town for a long time now. But when you get on the road and you in League One for a while, and you come to a stadium like that, it makes a difference from your Stamford Bridges, your Etihads, and like it says in the song. I had a great time. Wooden seats, different, restricted view.
Just like
I
Ellen
saw
Road.
2 goals. So yeah. I had a brilliant time. Really good day out, and pretty much the perfect away day in the end.
Good stuff. Killer, you obviously had a bit busy with playing, weren't you? Because you've still clinging on to the youth, aren't you? At the minute that you can still play a couple of games here and there. You watch from the Sky Sports Plus app. Let's talk about the game itself as well. I think what we'll do is we'll break it down into thirds as well, because I think the game sort of changed at different points, and mostly just these three different points. So the first third, I thought Town started quite well, if I'm honest. First sort of 10 minutes or so, I thought that we pressed really well. Josh Koroma had an early chance from the press whereby he should really have squared it to Reece Healy, and he didn't. He kind of took too many touches and then tried to fire it across to him afterwards, which ended up in a corner. But then after 15 minutes, I thought Peterborough started to wise up to us a little bit, and the way they kind of did that was by essentially diving. When we press, if we press a defense, then the easy way to get out of that is to go down under pressure. And there was a lot of free kicks, a lot of really frustrating free kicks where there was zero contact as well. Tom Lees and Mikel Miller both very frustrated with the fullbacks from Peterborough. But it's a valid tactic, isn't it? If you press high and you get in people's faces, then they're going to do what they can do to turn things around. But after that 15 minutes, there was a period really of 15 minutes or so where I thought Peterborough started to turn it back around and started to turn the screw back on us a little bit. Although at that point, honestly, at that point as well, 15 minutes, I said to my mate that I went down with, I went, Peterborough are here to be beaten 3 or 4-0. And as I watched the first 15 minutes, and then pretty much just as I've said that, it turned, and I just thought, you dickhead, Matt, why have you had to go and say something like that? But in that 15-minute period, I think much was said, Killer, as well, about Jonathan Hogg. Stephen Chicken gave him an 8. I gave him a 6 in our ratings, and he seemed to split opinion as well. But I thought this was the period where he really struggled. He was very loose on the ball, and Joel Randall just seemed to find space at will behind him, and that's what was causing us all the problems. Really, was Randall finding space in those little pockets behind Hogg, and that's what swung the game. The Chris Clark chance, where he should have done a lot better, to be honest, came from a misplaced pass from Hogg, and then an inability to get back into position because of the legs. And we understand that he's 35 years old, and I have to say, after this, I thought Hogg was very good, but just during this period was a moment of struggle, and that was the area where Peterborough seemed to be having the most fun, the most joy. And Ricky J. Jones as well had a good chance as well, didn't he? Where he kind of, I think it's Brody. Is it Brody that he kind of beats in the air, and then Hellick realizes he's not going to get there, and J. Jones uses his pace to fire a shot across goal, and does it touch the post on the way wide? I couldn't quite tell on the replay, but at that point, at that point, though, Peterborough just seemed to be the ones the ones who may look to open the scoring, Killer.
Yeah, I just want to go back and re-clarify on the goal first from this evening, in that Sorensen's had a shot, the keeper's kind of palmed it onto Headley's chest, I think, and it's gone in that way. I think I've fallen for that common mistake, getting Sorensen and Headley just mixed up there a little bit when it comes to who got the last touch. But no, I think, first off, I just want to give a shout out, I guess, to Sky Sports Plus, right? Because the games that we've had before on the red button, it was only ever one camera, and it was very kind of limited being able to watch it. And now the Peterborough game was fantastic. Honestly, it was fantastic, Matt. There were, I think, 3-4 different cameras. I've been speaking to Cam Pope about this previously, obviously the Town fan that works for Sky and Man United TV, amongst others. And they've got more cameras in ground. And now the commentator can kind of direct the cameramen to what they're seeing on the field. And going into the beginning of the season, I didn't really think it made that much of a difference, but it really, really does. And now watching the game at home was far better than it was last year anyway. Like you say, Matt, before we podcasted on this last week, and you mentioned that Peterborough were pretty pretty weak this year, possibly, considering who's left and who's coming. But I thought that first 15
turnover,
minutes...
big turnover, yeah.
Yeah. In the first 15 minutes, I thought it was just really frantic, Matt. I didn't think there was really much in it for either team. It was just kind of two teams, a bit nervy, maybe properly going at it. But like you say, Matt, 15 minutes came and went. And then, for me, I was quite worried on how Peterborough turned it up. They were, like you say, Matt, is it Randall finding that space? And Ricky J. Jones, I thought, was really good for that 15, 20-minute spell. And as he's driven forward there and Helic can't get back to catch him, I think if that nestles in the bottom corner instead of flicking the outside of the post and going wide, the game's very different. As it turned out, it didn't. Or within like 10 seconds, we're leading 1-0 and everything shifted. But in that 15-minute spell, there was enough there to be worried about, Matt, as we spoke about before, with the left and right centre-backs not having enough pace to kind of cover that ball. And Peterborough, whilst they didn't look really fantastic, they were causing problems. And we just looked like we were struggling. And you? Johnny Hogg is a leader. We know he brings more to the team than just his own individual performance, in that he kind of lifts everybody else up around him, a bit like Johnny Worthington used to do for us at times. But to me, he seemed off the pace, but then he's not played. How much has he played in pre-season, Matt? Has he put in as many as everybody else? I don't know if he has. He's been used quite lightly, hasn't he, in certain games? And maybe that's it.
Just watching the game, and Headley's just swung one in, and Mikael Helic's just stuck it over the bar from a set piece. He's quite decent. Jaheim Headley on set pieces. That's quite interesting. But yeah, sorry, mate. No, he's not playing massive.
No, I think he's got Headley on set pieces, by the way, as a quick aside here, because it gets your ball players on the edge of the box, doesn't it? Like Evans and Wiles that will come onto at the weekend, they'd be kind of guys you'd consider to take corners and set pieces. But as it was, Headley seems to be the kind of guy tasked with doing this at the moment. And it's, well, if you can get Helic on the ball in a corner, then it's obviously paying off for you. But no, that first 15 minutes were rough, Matt. Second 15 minutes, I thought, first 15 minutes were all right, but kind of neither here nor there. Second 15 minutes, pretty rough going until we managed to kind of create a bit of a chance with Evans after Wiles did a nice bit of work.
Jay's just sacked it off, hasn't he? I think he's obviously
he's busy celebrating. He's just celebrating how Morecambe are struggling against that fantastic fluid football, which I must say, Matt, we've put quite a strong team out this evening.
It is interesting. We'll have a look at this very, very quickly. I'm just bringing up some of the stats and what have you on here as well. And Morecambe have gone 2 up front against our 3, which is interesting. Matty Pearson just struggling with controlling the ball there as he's put it out of play. Good old Matty Pearson. But no, it's been a good start from Town. We've been very lackluster, haven't we, in a lot of cup games over the years. And, you know, you could even say we've thrown a lot of cup games in some ways, haven't we? Or what felt like not really turning up. But yeah, Jaheim Headley is the man who's scored the opening goal apparently for Town, which is good. It'll be a good confidence booster for him, and which is excellent. So Town are currently 1-0 up after 12.5 minutes. Jay's back in the room as well, which is good. But so just going back to the Peterborough game as well on this one. So that third, it was that space had me worried. At this point, Jay, you're in the stands with. Not too far from me as well. Did you think at that point when Chris Clark gets the chance, and Jack in the chats put Chris Scone Clark on account of his gut, which I thought was pretty good. Although, I'm not going to call Chris Clark fat because I think I look like Big Daddy in comparison to him. So, so Chris Scone Clark, and he's also said, anyone remember when we lost to Danny Cowley's Lincoln in the Cup before hiring him that one season? And I think. Yeah, that was a depressing one, wasn't it? With Phil Hodgkinson out strolling down the side of the pitch angrily on his mobile phone, and Hoggy sort of making a big deal out of it as well. And David Kassim has just been wiped out by a studs up challenge and no yellow card for the Morecambe player. So moving on, Jay, just on that sort of first half hour to you as well. How did you see the first half hour of the game? I mean, me and Killer's seen it kind of similarly, although Killer has mentioned it was frantic at the start, but that was mostly, I think, to do with Town's press and how Town were pressing and Peterborough's trying to work out how to deal with it. And then it just seemed that they got on top a little bit. I mean, they had 2 chances. I wasn't particularly worried, although I think the Ricky J. Jones from the angle we were at looked far wider, didn't it, than it actually was when you saw it back. Because when Killer mentioned in our group chat that he hit the post, I was like, hit the post. It looked about 10 yards wide from where we were. But were you worried at that point?
I mean, it's a new league, new players against a new team. Peterborough, year after year, have been up there, playoffs. Away from home, I don't think it was ever going to be as simple as maybe Town fans dreamt it was going to be. Uh, in the end, it was quite an easy game, second half. However, no, I mean, Town, we were a bit rusty to start the game, but we grew into it. But, Peterborough were always going to have chances. They were always going to create chances. They're on home turf. They, as much as we do, wanted to go out and create an impression on their fans first game of the season. Town were slightly lackluster, stray passes, quite sloppy, and people around me were slightly more worried than maybe the calmer heads were. I think the three of us share the same sentiment that it was never going to be as simple. And in the end, Town were going to be all right because I'm quite confident we have the standard of players to weather the storm, and we did in the end. I wasn't that worried, but it was interesting to see that some of the stuff that we saw in pre-season, such as being quite vulnerable through the back, down the back, through the back line, passes through midfield, that were exploited, and we didn't quite have the pace to get that. But that wasn't really a problem towards the end of the game. So overall, Town were all right. I wasn't that worried, and I think we did turn a corner towards half time and definitely after it.
Hey Matt, just quickly on the Jonathan Ogg selection in the team. There were a few people didn't expect him to start. I was one of them. I thought we'd go with more of an attacking three in midfield. And then seeing Hoggy in there, initially I'm thinking, we're worried about Peterborough. We're going to go into a bit more of a defensive kind of formation with wing backs. But straight away with Town's press, Matt, it looked like our wing backs were more like wingers, out and out wingers, not even playing as a wing back. They were, and looking at the heat map afterwards, you can see how high both Sorensen and
Miller was in particular.
Miller were so high. It were nearly playing like a front four, which, funnily enough, is what we played with Lee Clark in League One many moons ago, wasn't it? With the Pilkington and Gary Roberts out there. But honestly, the press was so high from us from the first minute. I got it wrong. I just thought we were going to go be a bit more defensive, a bit more reserved on the press and countering with Hoggy in there. And what it actually was is kind of, with Hoggy sitting deeper, you could push two further guys further forward and really bring it to Peterborough. And Peterborough just kept trying to play it out from the back. They didn't kind of adjust to the change that Town were going with until possibly late on in second half. They changed it a little bit, Matt. But they just carried on trying to play it out. But with us, with the extra high wing backs, it just made our press so much more potent. And even in that first 30 minutes, Matt, even though they were on top, Koroma still nearly sniffed out a couple of chances from pretty dodgy back passes around at the back. And that's all because of Johnny Ogg in there. And that was something I didn't really expect when I saw him in the starting lineup.
Town, I tell you what, it's a good job there's no VAR in this game, because Herbie Kane's just clipped a ball over the top for Danny Ward a minute or two ago, and Danny Ward's gone through one-on-one, and the Morecambe players absolutely scythed into him a little bit, and Ward has got the shot off, but I think the referee's not noticed that he's kind of hit it as he's falling, because the Morecambe players absolutely wiped his ankle out. So Town may be a bit unlucky not to have a penalty there for the foul on Danny Ward. But Town are actually playing at a really good pace here in the game against Morecambe. A lot of times Town have been guilty of just playing such a pedestrian pace in cup games, even when they've got a decent team playing quite well on in the league. And then in the cup they just play pedestrian because they're not that fussed about it. But there's absolutely none of that here. Town are playing at a good pace, although Sorensen's just giving it away and Morecambe are on the attack. But it's really interesting. It's good to see as well. And Matty Pearson sprinting there to pick it up and cover it. That's all good. Let us go back to Peterborough again. So we're breaking it down into this first third. I thought what was quite good, Killer, and you've mentioned it there, and it's in my agenda here, is Josh Koroma on the press. We've gone with two strikers in Reece Healy and Koroma, and I think when I saw those two up front, and I knew that they'd be the two strikers, I think what really kind of made me a bit unsure was that they're both kind of like to pick the ball up a little bit deeper. Healy seems to have I wouldn't say he's lost his pace, but he's not as sharp as maybe what he was when he was at MK and Toulouse. And he doesn't seem to be able to quite run behind anymore as effectively maybe as what he once did. But he's actually really good at linking play and dropping off and dropping into little areas. He's a really smart player, is Reece Healy. But Josh Koroma kind of does that as well. So they both were kind of dropping a little bit deep at times, and there was no one really for that through ball, and that's what we've just seen today with Herbie Kane dropping it over with for Danny Ward. But when you saw that, there was that slight issue there. But also, what was really impressive, both of them instigated the press and both pressed really well. And Koroma is someone that you really like in the press, isn't it, Killer? And he was the one who really led from the front on that.
He gets out of press, doesn't he? He don't over press. He don't work so hard it burns him out. You don't kind of get a drop off in the last 25 minutes because he's overworked it. He's just very, very clever. And the pair, and it's strange to see it, Mark, because I know Healy's been here since January now, but Kroma's not really played up front last year too much by Sheffield Wednesday that we'll always remember. But he hasn't done it that often, so they've not worked together pressing too much, right? Obviously, they've had off season now, and we were pretty clear that this is the starting two, so they have worked it a little bit. But to me, it looked like they played together for years, pressing off the ball. They look phenomenal. You're right, though, Matt. They're both pretty similar in that they like to get a little bit. They like to go and do the dirty work, don't they? Not just in the channels, but in that kind of, like you say, where that attacking midfielder kind of role. And you can see why Town is still looking. Obviously, we spoke. I think Duff spoke about after the game about looking for another striker, even though we've obviously got is it Callum Marshall coming in. But you're looking for a guy to stretch the field because there are going to be games where you have to have that change of pace, a guy that really just kind of sticks on the last man and pushes it to kind of create space for the midfield a bit more. Whereas Koroma and Healy kind of get in everybody's way a little bit. And that's not trying to be derogatory to them or criticise them. It's just the way they play. And they are both two similar kind of strikers in that kind of way. But the press was really impressive, Matt, wasn't it? Honestly, with a wing backs pushing up high.
They put the press in impressive. Is that what you're going for?
That's what I'm going for. But that's the part that surprised me the most, Matt, because even in the friendlies we've seen, I can't remember us going that way with the higher wing backs from the off all game. I just can't remember really seeing that. And now I spoke to Andy Kay previously. He was in Austria for the tour, and they said that Town wouldn't let anyone into the training. They were trying to say, right, stay away from training. I'm guessing they're working on stuff they don't want other people to see. And I really do think what we saw in that first half, and the entire game against Peterborough, was Town kind of knew what they were going to do from a few weeks ago, and they were just waiting to pull it out the bag, because the way we played isn't what we'd seen in the friendlies. Not for me anyway, not to my
eye. Yeah, absolutely. There's a few messages coming in as well. Ponty Terrier can't find it on the red button. It's on there. Don't worry. Keep looking.
No, Ponty Terrier, what you have to do quickly, you have to go to Now TV. It depends if I've got my Sky Sports through BT Sport, and it goes through Now TV, which you have to log into, and then you can watch it on there. But if you've got BT, or EE TV, it might be known as now, I can't get it on my TV. I have to go through Now TV to get it. So maybe that.
See, live tech assistance as well here, haven't we? Jack saying of this game that we're watching so far, really enjoying Callum Marshall. He's all over the front three so far. Nice bit of pace to see. A lot of shouts for a lob ball, and he's on the shoulder of a defender. And that's exactly what we've been looking for and what we've just been talking about, isn't it? That we need someone to do that. Town have got a set piece, header. Oh, keeper saved it. And also as well, Jack says, look at your Pentas shin pads. Has he borrowed an under 11s? Do you know what? There's a lot of people who use tiny shin pads, isn't there, these days, Jay? They're almost like, my phone's quite big, but they're almost like small mobile phone size, aren't they, that they stick down the and Sorba Thomas used to have tiny shin pads, didn't he?
Yeah.
I've got no idea how they offer you protection from getting kicked on your shins. I've got absolutely no idea, mate.
Not only that, Matt, you've got that, and you've got people cutting holes in the socks as well. And we've got some boys at our team doing that, and I just don't get it. No one's got massive calves. I don't know who started that.
Jack Grealish probably.
Honestly, we've got to buy new socks for our club every week because guys are going out and cutting them. We're going to have to start finding players if they continue doing it.
I'd definitely do that, mate. Right, okay, so thanks for the comments that are coming via the stream. We've got around about 20 people watching it, which is really good to see because there's quite a lot of people still at the game at the minute. So obviously it's just us part-time shithouses doing it. But there's nothing to stop anybody from listening, while you're at the game as well. Town, a little bit unfortunate not to get another penalty, but it's a foul given against Callum Marshall. Right, okay, so the first half, our Town have weathered that little bit from Peterborough, and then we're going to talk about the second third of the game. This is where Town were absolutely excellent, wasn't it, Jay? I mean, half an hour gone, Chris Conclark has that chance, which he really slots poorly at Nichols, and then Town really sort of come at Peterborough from that point and really get to work. And it starts really with Mikael Miller, doesn't it, up that left-hand side? He, after a little while, he worked the right back out from Peterborough, Curtis, and there was a lot of runs up that flank, weren't there, and a lot of balls into the box. Not quite hitting the target, but they were decent, weren't they, and very threatening. And Mikael Miller was a real threat, wasn't he?
Yeah, I thought Miller was really, really good, really encouraging performance, especially working with Koroma down that left-hand side. Really, really, really solid debut from Miller. And like you said, Matt, he's putting crosses in, and they might not always be perfect, but at least someone's standing the ball up. And that was an integral part of our first goal. He stood a ball up, it's come out, and Anthony Evans has sent a volley crashing towards the goal and 1-0 Town. But like you say, if you don't gamble, you don't get the rewards. And Miller, I thought, really, really, really encouraging, because he was doing that. He was putting balls into the box and he was creating chances.
Killer, do you often see wing backs get into the byline? It feels quite rare, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not normal. Normally they get a bit excited if they get too close to the box and just whack it in, don't they? Like, that's kind of where we're at. Yeah. But I thought Miller was okay. I thought that first first half an hour, they were just a few things off the ball defensively I was a little bit worried about. And you've spoken to a couple of Plymouth fans, I think, regarding how Miller played there and what to expect from him. And to me, it looks exactly what we kind of expected. Really, really good going forward. Defensively, who knows? And hopefully we don't have to defend too much this season because we're going to destroy teams like we did this weekend. But he looked fit for purpose. I think that's probably my best my best way I could kind of explain how I thought his performance went this weekend, because he wasn't really threatened too much. We controlled the game really, really well for the majority of it. So he wasn't really questioned with those too many balls over his head kind of thing, Matt, where you got to get back into shape and whatnot. But he looks like a cracking wing back to have, because obviously we've started in this system now where we don't really have any wing backs to start off with, or who I thought would have been a wing back. Maybe Ben Jackson obviously isn't here anymore. So realistically, we have no bona fide wing back. So we have to kind of go out and get 4. We didn't. We went out and got 2. He's definitely serviceable already. And maybe there's more to come from him. Obviously, with Plymouth last year, he was injured, wasn't he? I think for quite a bit last season. And did he miss 28 games? I think that's what he missed.
He missed their promotion campaign, a lot of their promotion campaign, and then it ate into the start last season. Yeah.
So he's going to probably warm up as well and get better as he goes on, because obviously he's not played for quite a while, not an extended run in the team, and he'll get that chance with us. But he looks like he could be a weapon. It's just defensively, yeah. Who knows?
The good type.
The good type of weapon, and an offensive weapon. If you're a defensive one, you're in trouble. But he looks like he has the ability. He clearly has the ability to be a huge asset for us this season, and you could see that very quickly on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, Marshall just got absolutely wiped out by the Morecambe centre-back. It's an absolutely filthy challenge, and the referee's just played on. Got no idea what's going on here. I thought the referee was weak, on Saturday, just while we talk about referees. I thought in that first sort of 20 minutes, I thought he was really weak with the decisions he was given, some of the soft ones. But overall, I thought he did a fine job. He stopped noticing him after sort of 20, 25 minutes. I think he kind of got a grip of what Peterborough were trying to do, and he stopped giving 1 or 2 free kicks when they stopped doing that. And that's when some of Peterborough's problems started to occur. But the goal itself, so the goal came, Evans, a debut, fantastic. We'll talk about Evans in a little bit. But it's good work from Miller, and he plays in Ben Wiles, doesn't it? And it's Ben Wiles who clips the ball across to the far stick, and it's a really clever little ball from Ben Wiles. And Miller lines it up and gets a nice deflection. It was quite fun, wasn't it, to see the Peterborough Twitter account be a little bit annoyed, weren't they? That a couple of goals were deflected. But it was the deflection. It was Jed Steer, wasn't it? Jed Steer bears a striking resemblance to Adam Jarrell, who does some of our songs, and he's appeared on the podcast a couple of times. I might need to remind Adam of that. But he's Jed Steer. At first, when we saw it live, I thought, oh, Jed Steer's not done particularly well there. But once I've seen it back on the highlights, I've kind of thought, oh, maybe that's just really bad luck, Jay, for Steer. It's steered away from him. Way.
Brilliant. No, like you say, kind of a mean deflection. Peterborough admin wasn't too happy about it. We don't care because Town are up and running. Evans has scored on debut, and the away end goes absolutely berserk. Just a word for our support on Saturday. I thought for turn up and pretty much take over, I thought we were brilliant, and that's probably played a decent factor in the scale of the win, really, because at times it felt like a home game. Town was so dominant.
Absolutely, and Michael Duff said similar, didn't he? He said we made it into almost like a home game. It's one of those stadiums, though, isn't it, where the roof's quite low and it's quite tinny as well, and you kind of all assembled together in a short space. The noise kind of stays in, doesn't it? And it felt loud when we started singing in there, which was good. Quick word for the Peterborough mascot with I think it was sorry, your pender's just had a shot there. Yeah, there was a rabbit, wasn't there, called Peterborough, running around swinging a carrot round, which was a little bit bizarre. And then there was a skip, wasn't there? A bloke in a skip walking around, like the skip across his head, and with a hat with Mick George on, which I just thought was brilliantly League One. For me, it was better than the West Brom boiler. It was better than the West Brom boiler. Easy.
Do we get spinny penalties at half time? As long as you have dizzy penalties at half time, that's peak League One. So Peterborough can improve on that. But with it, just quickly back to the goal with Evans. A few seconds before, Ricky J. Jones has just touched the post and it's gone wide. We've got a fortunate deflection and it's gone in. Because if it doesn't take a deflection, he's saving it, I think, Steer. I think it's pretty much straight down the throat. And it should be a comfortable save. But it just shows you it's such a change for Town because we don't have that. We haven't had that look for such a long period of time. And now luck generally comes your way the more you have the ball and the more, and even if you've got less possession, but you're the aggressor or controlling the game, you tend to get more luck. And it's really nice just that first goal at the beginning of the season, something's kind of half. And again, was it a bit of deflection first before it even got to Evans? And then he's managed to smash it. It's taken a nice fortunate bounce. And we're 1-0 up instead of 1-0 down. And now most seasons recently would have been 1-0 down instead. And it's a total different game. But we've got a vociferous fan base there, properly happy to be there, giving it a good go. If we go 1-0 down, though, atmosphere changes. Instead of going 1-0 down, we're 1-0 up and it's party time. New culture, new everything. We're going to do okay this season. And that really just, you could see everything lift from that moment on. That goal is massive. And however our season goes from here on, that will be a defining part of it, genuinely, because it was something where something went our way for the first time in quite a while. And it's about time, isn't it?
I mean, it doesn't go our way very often, does it? Not since Wagner left. Everything seems to have gone against us, apart from maybe one or two in that Carlos Corberán season where we defended with our lives and ragged a few wins, which was very pleasant at the time. So the Evans goal, it was, to be fair to Anthony Evans, though, it's very well struck, isn't it? The technique on the volley is very good, and it has deflected. Who knows where it ends up after? It could go straight through Jed Steer. You never know, do you? I think Jed was having one of those days. But, like you say, Town up and running, fantastic. And then all of a sudden Huddersfield Town come alive, don't they? And this is where we've seen the potential of this team here and how good it could be really pushed through, didn't it? Ben Wiles in particular was fantastic in midfield. Anthony Evans as well, really, really buoyed by that goal as well, really took control, centre stage. Sorensen, I thought Sorensen was a little bit quieter on the other side than Miller, but that was mostly because the play tended to come and be focused down our left-hand side. So that's not a slight on last Sorensen. But the next thing that will happen, we're 1-0, we're singing, and then all of a sudden 1 becomes 2 very quickly. And again, it's another good strike. This, although I'm not sure it was massively deflected this time away from Jed Steer, but Evans takes the set piece, so it's almost a returning of a favour, isn't it? Evans takes a really good set piece, and to be honest, if I'm a Championship fan, I know we've come down to League One, but if Lee Nichols does what Jed Steer does, I'm looking at Lee Nichols going, "What on earth are you doing?" He kind of just sort of stands there and weak fists it, doesn't he? And then it was a good delivery, but you would expect a goalkeeper to maybe deal with that a little bit better, but it comes out and it's Josh Koroma, isn't it? Josh Koroma's got the dancing feet on. He's trying to twist turn and he gets the shot away, but it's good defending by the Peterborough player, to be fair, to block it. But then, unfortunately for him, it drops to Ben Wiles, who takes aim and fires it into the corner. And again, Jay, scenes in the away end, 2-0 up. Ben Wiles runs over to celebrate with us. And it felt like a really good moment for Ben Wiles as well. He's not scored. It's his first competitive goal for Huddersfield Town. He's not really had the greatest 12 months, has he? But this moment just felt like such a release for him, and you could see on his face, couldn't you, how everything you could just see his shoulders drop, and it was like, oh, finally, wasn't it?
I think that was sentiment shared with anyone of the Huddersfield Town persuasion in the stadium, because normally and it's a big if, Town go 1-0 up, we are very inclined to just passing the ball around, not taking too many risks, but not really going for a second goal. And it's the perfect time to score, isn't it? Just before half time, he's absolutely clean strike, finds the back of the net. And like you said, Matt, for Wiles, he's had a really encouraging pre-season. And it must have been hard, joining from Rotherham, who, like Town, were strugglers last season and not really getting anywhere. It must have been hard for Wiles, because you don't want to be playing a team every week who are continuously losing. It must take a massive toll on the player and the team. But when that goal went in, you could see on his face, it was just a big, like you said, massive release. And Town went in 2-0 at half time, and it was happy days.
Killer. Ben Wiles, he's always had one fan, at least, hasn't he, in Huddersfield Town? And he's carried on what's been really excellent pre-season form into this match, into this Peterborough game as well. Is it time for you to say, I told you so, to a lot of Town fans, or do we need to maybe just let him have a few more decent games first?
I've just been, Matt, you've seen it. I've had to defend myself this week for apparently being too negative in our last podcast. I don't have time to sit here and tell everybody how right I am with Ben Wiles, because I've got absolutely shot down from the last podcast.
Quite rightly.
I've always thought I thought Wiles is a great player. I think he's fantastic. But unfortunately for him, he was in a team last year where you had Jack Radoni, who was kind of given that free role that Wiles seems to have this season so far. And he had to cover a lot for Johnny Ogg, I felt, last season. I thought Wiles were kind of like the sacrificial lamb in midfield. And if you'll go back to last season, if you ever try and find a third midfielder that did a good job at any one point, there wasn't one. And I genuinely believe it was because they had to do all the hard work. Kasumu did it for a little while. Whoever was in there with either Hogg or Radoni had to do a lot of work to cover. This season is different for Ben Wiles already, in that we're going to have the ball upfield where he can just kind of work on being creative. He doesn't have to worry so much. And especially with wing backs, with a back five, depending on how the game's going, he's got a little bit more license, hasn't he, to... hello, I think I might be a few seconds before you guys here. But Town are on the attack down the right-hand side, I believe, Matt.
Yep, Herbie Kane has just played in Sorensen, and Killer's giving the game away. Sorensen's put the ball across, and it's a goal for Huddersfield Town. Killer's completely done us over there, hasn't he? It's like when you're watching it on shall we say, a red button, because sometimes it's 90 seconds behind, and then your mate texts you like, go like this, and you're like, you twat, because it ruins the celebration. So Killer's just ruined that for us.
Oh, yeah, but you could tell we were going to score. We were about a 3-on-1, Matt. Come on, it's not even half.
It's a debut goal for Callum Marshall, which is fantastic. Yeah, that's a great moment. That it's a really good ball from Sorensen. It's a great break, that, isn't it? And we'll take a moment to start talking about this game, because Town have looked. I've had a message through from Lee Morris who said it's like been sat at a testimonial, and it carries in a little bit, isn't it? Because Huddersfield look really decent, and then Morecambe are just struggling, aren't they? And it's a good ball.
We've put out some kind of first team here. It's a mixed. It's a half mix.
Strong team. It's a strong team. Yeah.
I remember Morecambe going into the season were the favourites to get relegated from League Two. They've got ownership issues. They were awful, I think, over the weekend. They lost to Walsall, I think, 1-0. I think so. I'm guessing here. I can't quite remember.
Sadlers, that's how they're pronounced, isn't it? Walsall these days.
But for us, for Town, you've got a new coach in here. You're trying to get a new way of playing football. You've just had a really good win away from home. And on Tuesday night, you've got one of the weaker teams in the Football League at home in the Cup. It's a free shot. If you do lose, no one really cares. They're not going to send a full team. I think they've only got 6 subs today. They've not filled the subs bench. This is perfect for Town to really kind of make a statement, get a few guys on the goals on the score sheet, get them used to scoring. Obviously, it's really nice when you can get the new boy Callum Marshall into score. This is perfect for us. We couldn't have asked for a better game. It's really rare, isn't it? We get a nice cup draw instead of a bit one of those awkward, tough ones where you kind of go out without even worrying about it. But this is perfect. And to be fair, Matt, don't know what you thought, but when I did see the team sheet, I was quite happy with it because of it. I kind of half agreed to do this tonight, thinking we were going to put half a awful under 23 team out. instead dust on and really.
Can you do that these days? I don't know what the rules are these days. I know the Bristol Street Motors, you've got to have a certain percentage who've played a certain amount of minutes, haven't you, to play? But
yeah, I thought it was different in the first round because obviously you've only had one game before, and I didn't know if the rules still stood.
Yeah,
in the
it's
first
true,
part.
isn't it? It's difficult to impart that. But you look at Town's team, and they've got Maxwell in goal. I did wonder whether Maxwell will be the cup goalkeeper this year, because obviously a player like Chris Maxwell, you would think it'd be a tough pill to swallow, wouldn't it? Being a League One bench keeper, when he's mostly been a first choice League One Championship keeper for the majority of his career. It'd be a tough one.
Yeah.
I wonder whether he'd become the cup goalkeeper and Lee Nichols sits it out, which he is playing. And then the back three, Matty Pearson, Sorensen's on the go again here. He's going to have a pop at goal, but it's just deflected away. Sorensen's absolutely battering Morecambe at the minute down that right-hand side. He's been exceptional. What's really nice to see, that Matty Pearson's come in for Tom Lees. Tom Lees has obviously come back a little bit early from that medial knee ligament injury that he had, which he's responded to brilliantly. I thought Tom Lees was outstanding on Saturday. I just thought he was just so Tom Lees, in everything that he did. He was so solid. He even got pulled out into wide areas, killer, and he looked fine there. Do you know what I mean? He didn't look like he was having any problems whatsoever. And then you look through it's not the last time we see Helic. He's been linked, hasn't he, with no one of any reputation, by no one of any reputation, been linked away, hasn't he, to Derby. But
it's crucial we keep him though, Matt. In that first, like you say, in that 15 minutes where we were in trouble on Saturday, I think Helic really did stand up. I know for the Ricky J Jones chance, he wasn't perfect.
He's rapid
on it,
though, isn't he? There was space and he's rapid, isn't he? So,
but Helic, with Helic there, you still feel that kind of sense of security that I don't feel anybody else with our centre back ranks kind of do. I don't think there's much of a drop off, to be honest, to Pearson overall. But in those specific moments, Helic just seems to keep his cool, and he rarely makes mistakes. We know he's not the best on the floor, but that was at championship level though, and at League One he'll be absolutely fine. And it's probably just nitpicking. But I think it's really, I really just hope he does stay. But the thing that really impressed me the most between the first and second goal at the weekend, Matt, is we go 1-0 up, and now last year under Darren Moore, I still can't not say it like Chris Green, to be honest. Moore. I still
it's the Huddersfield way of saying it, isn't it? Moore. I'm not from Huddersfield, so I'm saying more. Yeah, my mum says Moore.
In my head, I just get that. Say it, Ian. Say it like Chris Green. Say it. Anyway, I'll try and avoid that. But under Moore, we go 1-0 up, and what happens? Deep block. We a lot of managers tend to do it. They're like, right, we'll get 1-0 up. What we'll do is we'll sit back for a little bit. We'll just absorb, kind of, and then go again in 10 minutes or so. And I'll get to half time. That kind of mentality. And now last year that cost us time and time again. What really impressed me with Michael Dustown on Saturday was it was as if we turned it up a notch. We've scored. Yeah. We've gone one up, and instead of kind of taking a breather, he's like, nah, let's go for the jugular here. And we did. We kept at it. The press got even more intense. The defence stepped up an extra 5 or 10 yards, and everyone just compacted the pitch. And Peterborough, in those 10 minutes between the two goals, just consistently tried to pass it out from the back, pass it out, and we just kept catching them. And it was really nice to see, because it's something very different for what we've had to watch recently.
I'll tell you what, Town strikers. Sorry, Jay. Marshall's just had an absolutely brilliant. Danny Ward scored. What a goal that is, and that's all from Callum Marshall. Has it been just like that? Scored?
He looks a player, doesn't he? He looks all right.
He's dropped deep there to press the defensive midfielder, and he's robbed the defensive midfielder. And I was just going to comment about how Healy and Karoma are good at that as well. He's dropped deep and he's robbed the defensive midfielder, and then he's run directly at the defence at an angle, which is always awkward because that opens up passes, doesn't it, when you run at that angle? And he's run it, and Danny Ward's seen it, and he's played Danny Ward in, who's onside, and Danny Ward takes a touch and just taps it with his right foot, makes the keeper look daft. That's a good
Marshall
goal,
there, Matt. Marshall's run it down the right-hand side. He's lost the ball, but he's won the ball back with a tackle, driven it into the box. And instead of shooting, which I'll be honest, 9 out of 10 strikers would do at that point, he's found Danny Ward with a beautiful pass, and it's still a good finish, to be fair, isn't it? It's not the easiest to finish, I don't think. Maybe a 2-0 at home against.
It's a good debut, is this? So we're just talking a little bit about this game as well. Jaheim Headley's been very good on the left-hand side. Town have got some really good competition there at the minute with Headley and Miller. Very similar in terms of they like to be higher up the pitch and, directly run with the ball. And I think Headley's delivery might be a little bit better so far than what Miller's is, but Miller's probably a bit sharper in terms of an attacking sense. So there's a good contrast there. Whereas the right-hand side, it seems to be Sorensen or maybe Turton or Brodie Spencer, doesn't it? Which doesn't quite give you the same sort of thing, but sort of alters things. But Town 3-0, Tom Upenda's looked really good in midfield as well. I was so impressed with him in pre-season. He's a player I like a lot. He's about as tall as Jay, and he's been built. He's quite well built as well. And Jay, I don't know if you've seen much of Tom Upenda, but he's really sort of exciting, isn't he? He seems like he can play 6. He can drop deep and dictate. He looks like he could do 10. He looks like he can play 8. You know, he just looks a very modern central midfielder with the added bonus of having height and a bit of strength as well now. If you're still there,
well,
it
sounds it's Wi-Fi. It sounds good. Unfortunately, my Sky Sports Plus isn't willing to play ball, so I've probably watched 3 minutes of this game. But speaking about Tom, it's one of those where he's been around the fringe of the squad for quite a while now. As youngsters go, if you are consistently around the squad and even get a few appearances, and you're trusted in the cup, it always seems like you are trusted by the gaffer. And to have someone like that who, like you said, looks so versatile and is impressed in pre-season, it's a really good asset to have, because Openda, he's got the luxury now of learning from some very, very experienced and decent EFL midfielders who really can mentor him to the next level of his game. And if he's excelling in cup,
Jay's having some Wi-Fi issues there, isn't he? Sorry, Jay. The Wi-Fi seems to have done you over. Killer, you're still with me. It's usually your Wi-Fi that goes, isn't it? We're coming up to half time now. I think Town have just headed the set piece away, and it's due any second now. Is this half time whistle? And Town are 3-0 up and looking quite decent, aren't they? Some of the comments coming in are pretty good. Jack says, my only worry with Callum Marshall is he's fast and asking for the ball over the top whilst playing on shoulder of the defenders. Might as well have blind linesmen who will disallow onside goals. He is pretty quick. It is half time and it's 3-0.
You can already see, Matt, can't you, though, with Marshall, that he offers something nobody else does in this team. You can already see that from 45 minutes against not great opposition, that being on the last man, on his shoulder, trying to set off. That's what we need. It's just a change of pace kind of striker for us.
Yeah. What was that? Abhinav Vadlamani says, imagine Lass and Joe Taylor, though. And do you know what? I have seen a lot of highlights from Lincoln last season with Joe Taylor's goals, and Lass Sorensen does provide quite a bit, and that would be something to behold. Jackie's absolutely loving Callum Marshall now. He thinks he's the greatest player he's ever seen. And Abhinav Vadlamani says, is Aina injured? Thought he would get some cup minutes this season. I think maybe the Bristol Street Motors Cup, maybe where Aina appears. That's if he's fit and ready and on the way. Boys, 3-0. Not bad, Killer, eh?
No, it's all right. Stats are just up here now. 66% possession, 11 shots. Morecambe, 0 shots. 0 shots on target. It's total domination. We might have to do this for every game, Matt. If this is what impact we have. Sat here, Tam must be watching it, taking our insight and just feeding it down there. And passing accuracy, 87%. Attacking third percentage, 75%. Key passes, 8. And it's not even our strongest team. And yeah, okay, Morecambe aren't great, but it's just a real change, isn't it? To be able, but this is, Matt, I think when you win Saturday against Peterborough, today becomes more of a free hit, doesn't it? There is no nerves at this point because you've won anyway. If you go out, no one really cares. So everyone, yes, they're playing for positions, but you know this Saturday is going to be a very similar lineup to last Saturday. So players are playing without any sort of pressure, and we look good tonight. We look really good. And what I'm really enjoying is Duff's clearly told everyone, Matt, if the space is there in front of you, take it. Sorensen is driving that ball forward every time he gets it. And not always to the byline, not always down the wing, but inside quite a lot as well. And I think that's where Tom Upenda will do really well in that. He's not necessarily the driver of the ball, is he? He's a bit more of a kind of a classy player, a bit of a passer rather than a driver. And when you've got guys around you that do the driving, they take the runners with them and it creates space for you. And that's why another reason there why Wiles and Evans and whatnot look a little bit better in the midfield than we expected, because there's much more space compared to last year where we were just so static all the time. There's so much movement in every different direction. And players seem to have a little bit more of positional flexibility. They don't really look like a left midfielder and a right midfielder in the centre there, do they? They kind of they're free roaming a little bit because they've trust that the guy next to them will get back to help them out if necessary. And it's just already a game and a half into the season, better than what I expected.
Are you working on your 7th place prediction? Is that going to alter at any point?
I just want to make it clear, right, on that. I'm only like one position below everybody else. Everyone else has said like 5th and 6th. A few people have said top 2, right? But most people...
Jay went ambitious. I think Jay went 2nd or 3rd, didn't you? I don't know if Jay's frozen.
Jay must just know. But no, but I'm not that far off everybody else. Yet it was me getting picked out as if I've said we're going to finish in the bottom half. We are further forward than I thought we'd be. Obviously, we're only up to the half-time in the Peterborough game so far. But even in that first 45 minutes, the way we turned it on going 1-0 up is just a team that's confident. And I don't know where we've got it from, because I didn't think pre-season was necessarily great, the results or the performances. But you've put us out there on Saturday against Peterborough, and within 45 minutes, we look like a team that are really not just to make up numbers, but to really have a go.
A team of renown and the pride of the town. Jay, you're back with us now. I'm sure you said 2nd or 3rd, didn't you, for this season?
Sorry?
I'm sure you said we'd finish 2nd or 3rd this season, didn't you?
Yes, 2nd. Only just picked by Birmingham, who actually didn't have a great start, and their fans were very, very expectant. And obviously, Reading turned up and humbled them really a bit, because I was watching a Birmingham fan vlog just last night, and all their fans were saying, 4-5-0 Blues, we're going to win the league unbeaten. So, that didn't really work out for them, and Town have got off to a good start.
Yeah. We're going to win 4-5-0 and pitch the league this year.
That's the one. That's literally the one.
Killer. Impresses me the most about this Morecambe game is Town's passing in the final third is 75%, and that's actually really decent. And that shows that I don't want to go back to my PTSD, but Town finding players in the final third with successful passes has been a real bugbear for a long time for me. And watching us now and watching the confidence in these players coming through as well, you got a very different midfield. Someone like Herbie Kane makes a massive difference. Of just watching him just pick passes, really easily and just knock the ball around at will around here. And he's playing in first gear. He's Herbie Kane. He's strolling around, just knocking passes everywhere, having a lot of fun. But that's really impressive, isn't it? Just being able to sort of, in the most congested area of the pitch, 3 times out of 4, find a Town player in a dangerous area and do things. It's unheard of things.
But it's not even pointless passing either, Matt. I think sometimes you can inflate those numbers, can't you, if you're just passing it down the channels and backwards, right? But it's not like that. Every pass we're doing tonight looks like a progressive pass, really going to have a go, but they're still completing them. It's very different this year that already we're getting lots of men in the box as well, though, Matt. There's people there available. And that's what is showing there on the stats. But I'm just not used to it. Honestly, I'm really it's really unexpected so far how we've gone in these first couple of games. But 75% attacking third passes is not normal, is it? And that isn't something we'll get every week. We should really look through the Morecambe team and see what kind of quality they've got playing for them, because I don't know if it's people's grandma and granddad's having a go today, because they're not, because obviously with the issues that they've got behind the scenes.
If we start doing that, we're struggling for content, aren't we, to get through to full time? We might have to do that later on when we're struggling for things to say, because we've almost talked our way through this Peterborough game, haven't we?
Yeah, not too bad anyway. It's
we're at half time now, and the highlights have come on. So yeah, just looking at some of the highlights here as well. Town shape. Dave Hartrick messaged me a little bit ago, and he just said Town's shape just looks so good, in and out of possession, and it does. I mean, 3-5-2 is not a system that you particularly love, Killer, and for me, it's a system which can leave you a little bit exposed wide if you come up against a team with decent fullbacks. Headley's won the lottery, hasn't he? We're just following another far post without hitting him in there. But it in terms of shape, we do look really good. I mean, Kasumu can fill in very quickly, can he? He can get from one side of the pitch to the other in a flash, can't he? So it's having someone like him sitting at number 6 covering the gaps is also integral, isn't it? And there's a lot to be happy about here, isn't there? It's an unusual, it's uncharted territory for us, Killer, to be happy with the way Huddersfield Town are heading at the minute. And it's the shape itself is one which I still aren't 100% sure it suits the back three, but they are sort of like warming into it a little bit now, aren't they? And I mean, on Saturday, I thought Tom Lees was phenomenally good. Like I say, he got pulled into wide areas. It didn't cause him any issues. He was comfortable. He managed to. The only one I sort of had, and I'll cover this now rather than later on in my agenda. The only one I thought struggled at times was Brodie Spencer a little bit, and that's because he's playing on the wrong side, and he kind of, when it comes to tackling, he comes across the wrong side on his right foot, doesn't he? I mean, Peterborough in the second half, and we'll talk about the second half, which probably could have had a penalty, couldn't they? It was right on the edge of the box, wasn't it, where Brodie makes that tackle on, I think it's Kean Hayes, but it kind of goes into the box, and it just rolls to Joel Randall, who shoots, doesn't it? And I think we're probably quite fortunate there, because at 2-0, if they get a penalty at 2-1 with 15 minutes left, it changes the game completely if they manage to score. But overall, I was quite impressed with the three, and we talked about Miller and Spencer a little bit earlier, Killer. But what I really liked was the communication between them in the ground. You could see the communication between them was really good, and Miller was actually really quick. Peterborough had possession and advanced to halfway. Miller was really quick at dropping back into that area, just in front of Spencer, and allowing Spencer then to tuck around. But we spoke earlier in the season, didn't we, how we thought it might end up being a 2 with Spencer kind of doing the old Tommy Smith with Adam Hamill, but it wasn't really. It kind of got drawn wider than what Tom Lees did, but he kind of needed to be, and it kind of worked as well, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the way Peterborough played kind of made it a little bit easier for us. They went with the front three, didn't they? And with the height of our wing backs, they ended up just having Ricky J. Jones on his own up top, really. So whilst there was a bit of pace there, and that's obviously what we're worried about, there was only one of them because of how they had to play. So I don't think there weren't many one-on-one opportunities, even on Spencer, that really cost us. There was enough there, like you say, Matt, to be worried about it. But I actually thought, even over the course of the game, Spencer kind of got used to it a little bit more. And I'm guessing throughout the next few games, 3-4 games, and we've got, what fixtures have we got next then? So Stevenage is coming up this Saturday. Then we're away at, who have we got after that, Matt? Is it?
We've got Shrewsbury and then Rotherham.
Right, so Shrewsbury look absolutely awful this season already. So you look at the next two home games where, okay, we shouldn't have to do too much defending, really. We should be able to, we'll go on that with a preview later on. But for players like Spencer that's kind of learning a new kind of role and a new system, they couldn't ask for anything better, could they? That's kind of what you want, to just get yourself a little bit more confident, because that's what most of it is, isn't it, really? It's confidence, not just ability, but confidence and belief in yourself. I thought that the centre-backs were better. I thought they were better than I expected them to be. But Spencer's always going to be that issue, Matt, innit? Because he's not played much games at this level. I know he had a half a season with us last year, but as a fullback, he's still a bit of an unknown. We've also got great hopes for him. And to be fair, last season, from his, like you say, his second debut against Man City in the Cup, he got better every single week. It just felt like when we first saw him playing in this kind of role, Matt, that he took a massive step back, didn't it? But that's understandable because he's not played this before. I'm just hoping he can progress at it as well as he did last season when he came back on loan. But he doesn't really lend himself to it, does he, Matt? That's the only issue I've got there. I just hope he can kind of...
Yeah, Tom
Lees, however, does look like he's going to be fine over there.
Yeah, I mean, like we say, he might grow. I think he'll grow into it. It's just between now and then, isn't it? When that happens, some interesting scores going on tonight. Grimsby 1, Bradford City 0. Who saw that coming? Stockport 0, Blackburn 4. That's a really sort of intriguing one, Jay, because Stockport had a good start to life, didn't they, on Saturday? I mean, it could be a case of Stockport of throwing in a scratch team or something. Smodic has got 2. Vyman 1 and Ohashi, I think he's quite new, but Stockport's team looks
new, large, yeah.
Yeah, it looks a little bit scratched, to be fair. But Stockport losing 4-0. I mean, they're joint top with us, aren't they? Some of the other results: QPR winning 2-0 against Cambridge, who are in our division. Fleetwood 2, West Brom 1 is interesting. Wickham winning 2-0 at Northampton. Norwich 2, Stevenage 2. So we got Stevenage on Saturday, and we'll do a warm-up show for that as well. That's a really interesting one. Norwich 2-2, and it looks like a strong Norwich team as well. I'll be honest, Jay, when Norwich lost on Saturday, I was quite smug about that. I just felt like David Wagner was treated shambolically by their fans last season. You know, when you've got a king like David Wagner, you don't treat him like a peasant, do you? And the way they treated him was just absolute shambles. And when they lost on Saturday, I was just like, yeah, serves you right. went into Neil Warnock mode, like serves you right for Wagner kind of thing. But let's go back to Peterborough now. Anyway, as it's half time. So the Ben Wiles goal. I think we were just finishing talking about the Ben Wiles goal, weren't we? And Killer was talking about how he's always been a big Ben Wiles fan. Him and Cozzy have had some disagreements on that over the course of last season. Cozzy's a massive Alex Wiles fan, though, who plays for Scarborough, so we have to give Cozzy his due on that one. At this moment, though, just after Jake, Josh Koroma had a chance as well, didn't he? Which he curled wide, and Town just looked like they could run away with it, didn't we? Towards sort of the end of the first half, and Josh Koroma has that curling chance, and then the start of the second half, we're on fire, were they? Forcing corner after corner. The press was immense at the start of the second half. I mean, it caused Peterborough untold problems, didn't it? And this is where Hoggy was really good at this point in the game. He was leading things from that midfield position, and he was the one who was sort of dictating midfield as well. For me, that the end of the first half, start of the second half is as good as I've seen a Huddersfield Town team for a long, long time in all any level, Jay.
I agree. Town were absolutely electric for, say, 10 minutes from the start of the second half to probably 55, 60 minutes. We were brilliant, forcing corners, and we didn't let up at all. Like we mentioned, previously, normally if we go 1 or 2 up in a Town side, you sit back and you don't invite pressure, but you absorb it. This is completely different from what we've seen from Town teams in the past. I thought the third goal was nailed on. Thought Town were quite unfortunate to not notch a few more goals on the scoreline, because it's really what we deserved. Hoggy again, I think he had a much better second half than he did the first. Classic Hoggy, lunging into tackles, getting the crowd really riled up, and like you said, Matt, dictating play. I thought
he made a great clearance as well, Jay, at one point. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, when he came off, I thought he kind of got the fans really riled up, and it was more of a goal celebration when he came off. And I thought that's probably all of 6 years of frustration since we've been in the promised land just coming out, because I think there's a sense of belief and expectation in this team that we are going to be up there, we are going to be fighting and challenging to get back to the Championship, and I think that's been resonated from the top to the bottom of the club.
Look, I'll be honest, a lot of footballers sort of tap the badge, don't they, and run around, putting stuff on social media about how they've enjoyed this and that, and a lot of footballers don't give a shit about who they're playing for. It's just for appearances, and it's just for ego fluffing in some scenarios. Jonathan Hogg genuinely cares about Huddersfield Town, and that's so obvious, isn't it? And Huddersfield Town genuinely care about Jonathan Hogg as well. I know when we say Hoggy wasn't great in that first half, it's hard to say because we fucking love Jonathan Hogg. I mean, he's one of our long-term heroes. You know what I mean? We're all big fans of what Hoggy's done at Huddersfield over the last 10 years. So it does hurt a little bit when you kind of think he's not had a good game here, and we're going to have to say the truth about that. But it was great to see him play well in that second half, and him to G the fans up, and at the end as well, the picture at the end of the game with his hands in the air is phenomenally good as well. It's a brilliant one. But go back to that second half, Killer, as well. Town, unbelievable. Like Jay said, Town were fantastic. Koroma's had that curled chance, which looked closer in the ground than what it did on TV, to be fair, when he, at the end of the first half, where he's kind of doing this, his dragging technique, and then he comes back in and whips it. It's classic Josh Koroma, isn't it? Sort of faking to go one way and then coming back inside the other. It's what he's built his career on, pretty much, isn't it? And then that second half, Town, like me and Jay were saying, that's as good as a Huddersfield Town performance in a spell of possession that I've seen since David Wagner, I would say. It was really
easily
good.
What was the atmosphere like before the game, boys? Obviously, both of you were
really
there.
Good.
Did it feel
really
like a bit of a party atmosphere before getting there? Which is ridiculous to say. We've just got relegated. We're away at Peterborough, but all the photos I saw on social media and whatnot, everyone seemed quite up for it. Were it like that before the game? Because as soon as the second half kicked off, the atmosphere from the Town fans was very, very loud on TV. The first half, less so, but especially as soon as we started that second half, it felt like it was. So I just don't know what it was like in the pubs beforehand.
They've been for an extra pint, haven't they, at half time? But it was good, wasn't it, Jay? I mean, I thought it was good throughout the first half, but I think as the second half wore on and we were playing well, and that really sort of there's two trains of thought, isn't there, to sort of getting an atmosphere going, and one of them is that the players on the pitch have to give the fans something to sing about, and then sometimes people say the fans have to get the player going as well by singing, and it worked both ways, didn't it? I think Town fans did their bit brilliantly throughout that game. I mean, I have one complaint about the Town fans.
Here we go.
One complaint. I fucking hate that Herbie Kane song. I hate it. It's rubbish and it makes absolutely no sense. Stop it. Stop it, is what I'm saying. It's rubbish. Pick a different player, different music. It's not too early to change. I looked around and Ollie Fisher was 2 rows behind me and he was just like shaking his head when people were singing it. It is rubbish, honestly. It is lyrically terrible. Stop it. Anyway, there's going to be some upset people about that now, but I don't care. But Town fans, aside, were phenomenally good, really good. There was no arguing, no spewing. Everybody was in quite a decent mood at the start, throughout. I mean, like Killer says, if Ricky J. Jones scores, it might change 1 or 2 views, but I don't think it would have, to be honest. I think there was a belief there that Huddersfield Town are now heading in the right direction, and I don't think a goal would have changed that. It was just, it might have made them a little bit quieter, possibly, if Peterborough had gone 1-0, but I don't think they'd have changed in terms of being optimistic about Town being able to get a result. And it's funny what relegation does to Huddersfield Town fans, isn't it, Killer? I mean, when we got the Premier League, everybody was really looking forward to it because we thought we might win some games, and then it turned out we were even shitter. But getting relegated from the Championship to League One, as I hate going down. I don't like League One as a rule of thumb. It's at 46 games, I can cope with 1 season. I can cope with 2 seasons. Last time it took us 11 seasons to get out of the bottom 2 tiers, and that was painful at times. It was so painful, and I couldn't cope with that again. But the Lee, and you think back to the Lee Clark era. The Lee Clark era in League One was a lot of fun, wasn't it? That was lots of fun watching that. And it just felt a little bit like that in the stand. You've gone out and you've taken Bristol Rovers as best player. That's what someone does who's serious about doing something next season. We took Bristol Rovers best player. We took Herbie Kane from under the noses of Derby. They were very serious on him, and we've taken him and got him to drop a level. We've taken Mikel Miller from Plymouth, who Plymouth wanted him to stay. These are clubs at a higher level. Huddersfield Town have done good work this year. They've got Callum Marshall, who's doing really well now. I mean, that could go either way yet still. Scoring against Morecambe's one thing. Hopefully we see more of that going forward. But, he's come from a Premier League team. He was in the Championship last season again. And everything's quite positive, isn't it? And I think we've backed up expectations over the summer. I think there's still some way to go for some people, which is fine. But I think someone's Jack's asked in the comments here, do you think Joe Taylor is off? No, is my answer to that, but it could go either way. You bring in someone like Joe Taylor or a striker of that ilk to go with Marshall, to go with Karoma, and even at Huddersfield Town, and you just think there's talent there now, and if someone's not playing well, someone else will, and that's what's quite exciting, isn't it? The team doesn't pick itself anymore. If you play crap, someone else comes in and takes your shirt, and it's all quite exciting at the moment. And I hate the saying of sometimes you need to get relegated to reset. I don't really believe in that. I think you could reset in the Championship at the end of a season just by shifting a load of players out and bringing a load of different ones in. But the early signs are that the fans are quite happy. The players look very happy. And, it's only 1 league game and 52 minutes into a League Cup game against Morecambe of League Two at the minute. But so far, everything's looking really, really positive. And Town are just about to score again, are they? Nope. And it is good. It's really exciting. And, I think a lot of people like myself will find themselves going to 10, 11, 12, 13 away games this year rather than 4 or 5. Depending on Sky Sports Plus and all that jazz. But honestly, mate, I think the Town fans were great. They stuck with them. Town are still going in this game against Morecambe. Poor Morecambe are getting absolutely thrown onto.
They've dropped 9 behind the ball now, aren't they? Most of the time, they started with 2 up top. They're still hanging on, I guess, with 2 up top, but it's very much a flat 8 behind it. Morecambe are holding on for dear life, and there, the chance you were referring to there, was it Marshall at the front post? But we had 2 Town strikers. I think it must have been Ward and Marshall, both slide tackling the keeper and the defender on the press to try and just take it off them and score a goal at 3-0 up at home in a cup game on a Tuesday night in a game that doesn't matter. You can see everybody's already playing for places. But no, the reason why I asked about that, Matt, about the fans at the weekend is because obviously as soon as the second half started, it sounded electric in there. It really did. But watching it looked like, and I know after the game, I think Ferguson suggested it was like a championship team versus a League One team. And it really felt like more than that. It felt like in that second half at 2-0 up, in the first 15 minutes especially, when we were passing it around and the old laser nearly coming out, it felt like we were a team from a division far above, and a team had come to us. We'd managed to score against them, get ourselves ahead, and they know they've just can't get back into it, and the game had gone. That's how the game felt. And that's mental, because normally, in any kind of game where you're leading at half-time, those next 15 minutes, especially from a Ferguson, you're expecting the manager to have absolutely battered the players in there, because the performance they put in was poor. They looked lost, did Peterborough, didn't they, in that last 15 minutes of the first half? Yeah. They looked like they didn't know what they were doing. They looked like kind of only thing they had in their head is, right, we've got to pass it out from the back no matter what. And that were it. That was kind of like their entire game plan. I just thought after half time they're gonna turn that intensity up. Town would sit back a little bit and just trying to absorb and ride the game out at 2-0 because it was comfortable. No, that's not what happened. Town turned it up another notch and just really went at him. And Peterborough you could see the players, especially before the subs started, because obviously Ferguson then started changing all sorts, didn't he? He didn't know what he was doing. There were substitutions here, there, and everywhere. There were system changes every couple of minutes because you could see them, all the players and the coaching staff of Peterborough, not have a clue what to do because Town were throwing everything at them at 2-0 up away from home in a game that's already gone.
On the law, weren't they? They were just throwing sub after sub after sub. And it was.
And you could see the players now. I don't know if you could see it in the stadium, but on TV, you could see them all trying to talk to each other, saying they were 3 in here and 2 in there, and they were pointing to each other. They had no idea what they were doing because they were panicking.
Mate, honestly, I'm just watching this game here, and Sorensen's just put one under the bar, but Jaheim Headley on the other side is rinsing Morecambe players like a Smeg washing machine. I'm telling you, like a prime dishwasher. He is absolutely battering them. Hang up, Morecambe are in now, but the guy's just gone wide when he could have run in on goal, which is really bizarre. And he has skied it. They should have. Yeah, I mean, we're all full of happiness, aren't we, with that sort of second period, and it was really Evans, the guy driving it, wasn't it? For me, how good is Anthony Evans? He took a knock, didn't he, Jay? I think the thing that silenced us a little bit in the crowd was when he beat one of their players to the ball and he got wiped out, didn't he? And he went down holding his knee and he was smacking the floor, wasn't he, in pain? And I think at that point we were just like, oh no, because we've had a horrible injury curse over the last couple of years. It's been horrendous how many injuries Huddersfield Town have had. So to see a new, not quite star man yet, is he? But to see a new player sort of go down like that was just like, oh, not again. And Evans, thankfully, walked off in the end, didn't he, Jay? But he was absolutely on fire, wasn't he, at that second half? He had a superb game, and you know, it's up there with one of the best debuts that we've seen for quite a while. I think Jay's getting his Wi-Fi keeps cutting in and out, doesn't he? Killer, you can take that while Jay reboots his router. I know Jay's back in the room now.
I'll take it from you. We've lost Jack Radoni, who was that kind of tempo player. Corberan spoke about it a lot with Lewis O'Brien, didn't he? That he could kind of control games and dictate how Town played. And whilst a lot of Town fans don't like how Jack Radoni, his tenure at the end of at Town, how that went, and even throughout, because he's Southern, I think he got a lot more abuse because of that. Even if he has got a few temperamental issues that Town fans aren't too keen on, with the stories that came out from in the know guys. He did run a lot, Radoni. He did a lot of work. He did a lot of dirty work, and he was always central to anything good that we did. It was more than Sorba Thomas last year. It was with Jack Rodoni. And now when he left, I thought that'd be a huge hole to fill, and I didn't think we could find somebody to do it. And you'd have to bring in kind of two. That's how it goes normally, isn't it? When you lose a centre midfielder that dictates play, you kind of have to go and get two and hope one kind of pays off a little bit. Evans to me is a plug and play replacement for Jack Rodoni, Matt. That's how I see him, and I can't believe we've got him so cheap. He does things. He's not quite as busy, I don't think, as Jack Rodoni is. I don't think he's quite. No. He's a bit more on the.
He's a bit burlier, isn't he, than Jack Rodoni? He's a bit stronger,
but not as burly as Herbie Kane, is he? Not quite that far either. He's a bit like a bit of an Aaron Moyes, Matt. That's probably where I'd be going with it, and that's an awful comparison to make, because
it's the ultimate kiss of death. Is that?
No, I know, but I've got one right with Wiles here. Just leave centre midfielders to me, Matt. Then maybe that's just ignore my league predictions, but we'll go with centre midfielders. But no, Evans looks class, and just for Town to go out this summer and sign players that have played in League One and that have proven at this level, and that, like you say, Matt, are the better players for teams in the bottom half of League One, compared to what we did last January, where we've gone and spaffed money on kind of high ceiling guys in that if it pays off, Radulovic could be worth millions, absolutely. And if Bolka pays off, he could be worth 6-7 million for a mobile centre-back at championship level. You get the financial gamble there. But what you also get is a very low floor in that it might just not work now because of Bolka's injury record. That's questionable if it will ever work there. Hopefully it does. You can tell he's got a lot of ability when he does play. It's just not enough. With Bojan, he might be a total bust. We might be looking to get anything back from him. I know he scored a hat-trick the other day in a behind closed doors game against Borough, was it, Matt? Yeah. 28-minute hat-trick, but then got injured and he's out for, is it 6 weeks? Is that what they reckon now? Is that what 6 weeks. The rumour is? We've gone away from that, and we've got a League One manager in Michael Duff, and gone sign League One players in Evans and Herbie Kane, guys that have been there and done it, and Sorensen. And Evans looked like an unbelievable player. He looked like a class above everybody else. Well, Sorensen aside, I think he's got that as well. But Evans looked like an absolute player. And those guys are hard to find. And what did we spend? 400 grand, Matt? Is that what the rumor is on what it costs to bring him in?
Yeah, 450. Yeah.
450. Oh. Best 450 grand we could spend, because he is a player that can kind of take a team in League One, in my opinion, already from that mid-table kind of side to challenging really at the top. He looks like an absolute top-notch midfielder. For not even this level, but even he looks like a championship player, Matt. That's what he looked like at the weekend.
I think a lot of them did, to be honest, mate. And that, like you said, that's what Darren Ferguson alluded to, didn't he? He said it was like you said, it's a championship team versus a League One team at times. And Peterborough have got lofty ambitions this year of a top 6 finish. And during this period, we made Peterborough look incredibly ordinary. And even as we'll go on to the last third of the game as well, Town sort of saw the game out, didn't they? Very professionally. And it was just credit to Michael Duff as well. He made the right substitutions at the right time. I'm a big Michael Duff fan. I have been for a while. So I'm obviously going to say things like that. But he made the subs. Herbie Kane, the space opened up and he brought Herbie Kane on, who absolutely ruined Peterborough, didn't he? In that little cameo, he set up. I think he was the one who put the ball in for Hellick, and Hellick runs away wagging his finger, doesn't he, like this? And to be fair to Michael Hellick, he wasn't offside, but Reece Healy was offside. Let's be fair. He's challenged the keeper from an offside position, so it's offside. So that was quite rightly disallowed. But his second contribution was to play the ball through for Danny Ward at the end as well. And Danny Ward probably should have, got the shot away with his right foot, but I think he's tried to sort of wait for the defender and then cut back onto his favoured left, and he's just been tackled. Yeah, which is fair enough. But that third Jay was just Town fans were olaying passes. When was the last time we've olayed passes at Huddersfield Town? When was the last time we made passes? Never mind laid passes. But, we're making passes. And some of the patterns as well, Killer, as well. The patterns. And to be fair, Reece Healy was the man who was, at the front of a lot of the patterns of play as well. And he came quite close in the second half with a shot. A lot of them were just like first touch, round the corner passes. And, Town were making a lot of amazing moves. compared to what we used to be like. But some of the moves that we put together were phenomenally good, and and it starts from your Herbie Kanes, your Anthony Evans, etc., and Johnny Hogg, all involved. I think Jay's back in the room now, so Jay, just some of the passing that we saw on the O-Lane. I mean, we were O-Lane. I was O-Lane. I'm sure you were as well.
Was I? Yeah. There was a few sequences of play, probably 1 or 2 minutes flat, where Town had the ball, and they were just fizzing it. One touch from back to front, through the middle, both wings. I was just thinking, what on earth am I watching? Because the last time I think Town competently passed the football around, where I thought, oh, we're not going to cock it up here, anything like that, and give it away, and they'll go down the other end of the field and score, was probably in the Premier League. And we just look so confident. It is unbelievable to see how pre-season, with a manager who wants to play front foot attacking football, has promised that and looks to be, obviously, not even played 2 competitive games yet, but looks to be delivering that. It's a massive, massive change of attitude. And if Town continue to do that, just based off possession, more of the ball, they're going to shoot more, and they'll probably end up scoring more goals, because last season you had the ball and you had so many opportunities where you just think you put your foot through it, and we're trying to walk it into the net. And this season, from what we've seen so far, completely different attitude change.
Killer,
I like
imagine
to say, if you don't,
yeah, go on, Jay. Sorry.
If you don't buy a ticket, you won't win the raffle. And I think Town have noticed that, and the attitude from the players, from what we've seen so far, looks really refreshing.
Don't like to talk about raffles, do we, Killer? Because somebody won the blue and white one the other week. So we'll move on from that, because it certainly did buy a ticket, being in the Blue and White Foundation and being a super fan like me. Every now and then you get rewarded. Killer, our Swansea fans must have really lofty expectations if they don't enjoy what we've seen there. I mean that was just. I don't know if the Olays come through on TV when you were watching.
It did. But Matt, for a man that's sat there saying, you can't sing that Herbie Kane song, it's shite, and now you're saying you're Olaying, were you doing Mexican wave and all, Matt? Were you fully at there?
Oh, no, we're not doing any Mexican wave. I mean, Olayin is happily taking the mick out of the Peterborough fans a little bit, isn't it? Just because it's all fun and games and winding the opposition up. Mexican wave just winds me up, to be honest. But we'll move on. You can't compare the two.
You just get defensive there, Matt. You just continue being defensive, mate. It's all right. I get it. But no, it was nice. We're passing it around, and like you said, it went back to the keeper, and we're still celebrating it because we knew the game was ours. We knew we were playing well. I've never seen that before. We passed it from Nichols at the back all the way up front. I think he did. I don't know if he got to Healy, if he got quite that high. It got to Sorensen anyway, and then it went back to Nichols after another 7-8 passes, and we were still celebrating it. And now that's a very, very rare occasion for being a Town fan. But Matt, do you think? How did you see the overall game then? Like, obviously, we're not quite finished on the game just yet, but where we are on the field on Saturday, is it where you expected us to be at this point? Because I've been pretty open on it, that I thought we'd be nowhere near this. I just know what your take on it.
I did say, though, didn't we, beforehand, I felt Peterborough might be the perfect time to play Peterborough because of the upheaval that they've had. So Peterborough, obviously, the way they play out from the back, it sort of lends itself into a high press. And if they've had a big upheaval and they've got Fernandez, I thought Fernandez at the back was actually all right for them. But if they're learning to play a new way of playing out from the back, and they've got new players doing it, a high press is not what you want to come up first game, is it? And that really caused a lot of issues. I think Peterborough might get better they should get better throughout the season. I had them sort of 10th or so, I think, in my predictions. Just because of the upheaval, but we'll find out, mate. But I think the problem when you've put a new philosophy and a new team together, a little bit like we've done, we've not had a big turnover, have we, of players, but I think when you bring a new manager in with a slightly different style and a different shape, I think it takes more than one or two games to get excited. We've got Stevenage on Saturday, and Stevenage will be a different type of test because they'll put men behind the ball. They'll play long. They played more long balls than any other team in League One last season. So they're going to be a very different way. They're not going to play out from the back and allow us to high press. So Town will have to change effectively, which probably means that, Hogg probably isn't the pick at number 6, and maybe Herbie Kane is. Just a little bit more. But it's going to be interesting to see how we cope with different styles and different teams. And I think by the time those 6 away games have finished, which we highlighted as being potentially really difficult, the first 6 to start, Rotherham and who lost to Exeter, obviously, and Bolton. If we get through there, winning 2 or 3 of those, then I think you can kind of sit there and think, do you know what? We are way ahead of maybe where me and you thought we'd be. Defensively, I think we'll potentially get caught out at certain points in certain ways. Peterborough did hit 1 or 2 crossfield balls behind the wing back at times, which seems to be our Achilles heel. But Brodie Spencer dealt with one. Tom Lees dealt with one, but one of them kind of went to how it kind of travelled across via Joel Randall was one which caught us out, wasn't it, where they could have scored. But we've got weaknesses, but it's League One, isn't it? You're going to have teams with weakness. Everyone's going to have a weakness. Even Birmingham, they're going to have weaknesses at a certain point. They're going to have, they're going to have a lot of cohesion issues, initially. And I think the way Town have done it, honestly, I think is quite smart in terms of that there's not that 11 new players in, 11 players out kind of thing. So I think we've gone about things the right way. And but I don't think we'll be able to sit there and sort of answer properly until we've seen more games and more style against us. But we can only go from what we have so far, which is 160 minutes and 160 minutes of 5 goals for, 0 against. It's looking good. It's looking really, really good so far. But Stevenage will present a different test, and it'll be one where we have to be patient as well, rather than really just getting stuck into them. And it'll be interesting to see how, if we don't score within the first 20, 30, 40 minutes, and how the fans are, because I think the fans might expect us to maybe put some teams away a little bit. But every team will be tough in this league, and we've just got to be patient at certain points.
Yeah, and other teams don't have any tape on us yet, do they, Matt, either? They don't exactly know where we're weak just yet or how to beat us. We talk about the over the wing-backs' heads, but generally...
Just listen to me and you slagging the defence off, that's all.
No, that's not going back. Yeah, exactly. But I think when we come up against teams that play 2 strikers, we're going to find it a little bit more difficult. I think if teams play a front 3 against a back 5 like we do, I think that kind of gets rid of that, the too much of a worry between the left centre-back and the right centre-back, because you've got an extra guy. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. Morecambe have tried it tonight, but they're not at our level, clearly. But it'd be interesting to see how we go at the weekend, because that might be what we're up against then. But again, I'll wait for the preview show. I'll tell you what, though, on this Morecambe game tonight, we took Helic off, didn't we, at half time, and brought on Turton. And if you've noticed, we don't look anywhere near as good as we did in the first half. And now it's not just the intensity going forward, but I honestly think Helic is so important to the way our backline is structured and how high it plays, that we've kind of dropped off a little bit at the back. And okay, we're 3-0 up at home, and this is not me criticising. Careful, everyone. I'm not being negative for negative's sake.
You're wounded by that one YouTube comment, haven't you?
Oh, Matt, I don't like criticism. Don't take it very well. But already we're just giving them a few extra chances here that they didn't have in the first half. They're having a little bit more of a pattern of play. And okay, we're playing at 50%, but we've brought on Wiles for Upenda and Johnny Hogg's come on for Sorensen. So it's not like we've weakened the team really at all. But and on for Helic. But already Morecambe look like they're giving us a few questions to answer. And we still look like we're not going to concede, or not concede more than one, but we just look a little bit deeper in this back line all of a sudden. And it really is, to me, something that Helic offers us, and why it's so important to keep him past the end of the transfer window.
Can you imagine if we'd have had Balker fit as well?
Oh,
Then
he might have glassed that fellow, isn't he? What a shame.
Yeah, he's not had the best of luck with us, unfortunately, so far. It's either his insides or his outsides going, isn't it? Unfortunately for Radinho Balker, but he you can see he's some player, can't you? If he gets on a run, so hopefully he'll be back sooner than later. He's a lovely bloke as well. Met him once, and he's one of the nicest at Town as well. Right, so we've talked about the Herbie Kane song. We did talk about that a little bit. Town see this game out, fantastic. We've mentioned the disallowed goal, haven't we? Which was rightfully done. Did you find it surprising, both of you, that Peterborough had more possession than us, despite Huddersfield being the dominant team. And I know possession works on the amount of completed passes, doesn't it? But did that surprise you a little bit? It surprised me a little bit, to be honest.
Slightly. I mean, being in the stadium, you really only focus, especially when you really only focus on what your team's doing, and especially second half onwards, I thought Town had a lot more of the ball than they obviously must have. Statistically, however, you can probably see Peterborough. They had a decent amount about this evening. They were very prone to playing out from the back. Now, that's something that Town rightfully pounced on because they're just not ready to do that at the moment. But yeah, I'd say short answer, yes. I was slightly surprised. However, it's something Town really aren't probably focused on, because since when have Huddersfield Town been a possession-based football team?
Not since David Wagner, really, is it? But Killer, I mean, the other stats, the field tilt, 66.1% Huddersfield, passes in the opposing half, Huddersfield 202, Peterborough 111, and that shows that Huddersfield Town, despite the possession, had a far greater territory than Peterborough in in attacking areas, which counts for a lot more than what you do knocking it around at the back. And I mean, possession can be gained just from the keeper to the fullback to the keeper to the defender to the it's not really the stat that was once made out to be the be all and end all, was it, when Spain and Barcelona were getting 80% here every week under Pep Guardiola. But a lot of the stuff, 8 high recoveries, shows that we've won the ball from the high press 8 times, which is really good as well. Peterborough got 5. Doubled the amount of crosses to what Peterborough is. Thanks, by the way, to Pozza for providing this. He got really excited that me and you might like this little cheat sheet, didn't he, on Saturday when he found some stats. So thanks, Poz. Corners, Town forced 11 corners to Peterborough's 3. 17 fouls to 7, which basically is because Town press and with a little bit of ferocity, don't they? But you look at a lot of the passing maps and everything, and the passes into the final third. Most things, as we expect, to go down the flanks for Town, which, as you say, Killer, indicates that your wing backs are really high. Again, I watching this, and about 15 minutes ago, David Kasumu got the ball in the final third, and Town just had a line of 4 at the top, with 2 of them being the wing backs, and it was really, really interesting. Just been hacked down. I don't know what they're giving here. Is it a free kick just outside? So Town have a free kick.
Given a red card. Hartrick's been sent off for taking out Koroma as last man. Koroma doing it again, Matt, though. Koroma again, there's a passing back from Morecambe, and Koroma's on it. Again, that's what he's doing. He's pressing high, nicking the ball. He's just a pest, isn't he? I've always, Matt, we spoke about it many times. I think Koroma as a 9 is the best he can be. I was surprised, like you're saying, Matt, against Peterborough.
I always preferred him.
Yeah, well, but Peterborough kept allowing him to turn onto his strong foot, didn't they? That's where the chance came where he should have scored it later on in the... Oh, hang on. We'll see how this free kick goes. Herbie Kane, it should be right up his street, shouldn't it?
Yeah, Herbie Kane stood up.
I think I'm ahead.
Yeah, mine seems a little bit slow here, but Herbie Kane's flicked it over. Oh, just landed on top of the net there a little bit, didn't it? Yeah. So in terms of a lot of this passing, Town's away passes into the box were so much better. There's a game control index, which I love as well, and it shows that in terms of control, Huddersfield had control of the game up to, like we said, around the 20-minute mark, and then Peterborough had a little flash, then us, and then Peterborough, and then we've taken over from the goal. And then we've absolutely battered them at the start of the second half. They come back a little bit, and then it's us pretty much for the rest of the game, which is really interesting to see. I tell you what, shall we have some Peterborough fan opinion? So I managed to speak to Harry from Up The Poshcast, which is I think it's a new Peterborough fan count, and it was a really good chat. Really good lads from the podcast. And what I'll do is I'll play in our conversation here, and you'll hear from their point of view and whether their thoughts on the game differed from ours or Darren Ferguson's. Hi, Harry. Thanks for coming on the podcast. So as Huddersfield fans, we've come into the league not knowing what to expect really from other clubs. I know Peterborough have lost some pretty key players lately, but what are the expectations of the club, and what do you see yourselves aiming for this season?
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'd say the expectations are fairly high, even though we've lost quite a few key players, as you mentioned, whether it be Ronnie Edwards or Harrison Burrows. We, a season ago, lost Hillsborough in the playoff semi-finals and lost Jack Taylor, and generally saw ourselves as being in a transition phase, only to then finish fourth the next season, despite losing a few key players, signing a couple of ones that we didn't know what to expect from. And I feel like because that happened, with this season losing a few key players and signing a few new ones we don't know what to expect from, having made fourth last year, we think we can probably go and make the playoffs again. Whether we'll do that or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, the expectations are fairly high.
That's quite interesting. I think that's similar to what we're looking at as well. In terms of the game then on Saturday, first game of the season, and nobody really knows exactly what to expect, us included. How did the game go from a Peterborough point of view, and how do you think you played in terms of to your full ability, or did you not play particularly well? And was it a disappointing result in the end?
Yeah, I'd say the game quite neatly fell into 4 different phases. First half an hour, I think we were on top. We had a good amount of opportunity to break out of your press and get the ball forward to our players like Ricky J. Jones, who obviously screwed a chance wide left with his left foot, having burst through, and our new left winger attacking mid, Chris Clark, who shot right down the keeper's throat not long after that. Had we taken those 2 chances, could have been a bit of a different game. With that being said, the next phase of the game, which is where you scored your 2 goals, you demonstrated a lot of what you guys had about you. And from the balance of it, as I say, even if we'd scored 1 or 2, I don't think there was any way in which you were walking away without scoring at least 1 goal on Saturday by the way you were playing. And yeah, you turned it up towards the end of the second half. Towards the end of the first half. Beginning of the second half, even more so, we could not break out at all because your press was just so effective, and I'm sure you saw it. The corner after corner, or the lost possession after lost possession on the edge of our own box, you turned it up in a completely different way to you had in the first half. And then finally, fourth and last phase of the game was simply a case of a bit of a less intense press from you, but just seeing the game out very professionally. We had 1 chance where Joel Randall dragged it wide, having been set up by Kian Hayes, our new winger who came on as a sub. Even if we'd scored that, I think you'd probably have seen it out anyway, to be honest, because it was all very professional from you boys. Are we disappointed? Yeah, of course we are. Could have been different on another day, but who knows, right? And I think he deserved it in the end.
Throwing in a Mark Fotheringham there at the end, didn't he, with the on another day thing? I think that's fair enough, isn't it? From an opposing fan, you never expect them to really sort of see it exactly like you. Let's switch to the red and black background here. I've done some new stuff. So if you're watching on, we've changed it because that's the kit that Huddersfield wore on Saturday. Fair comments, Killer. I think from him there. I think he saw that quite similar to you, really, didn't he, in terms of the first half hour?
Yeah, and it's nice to hear a fan of another team when you beat them away from home just kind of admit that's what was deserved. Normally you're hearing the ref with this, or we were just unfortunate here, or whatnot. What got me from that was referring to it as a professional performance, and that is how it felt from not start to finish, but from as soon as we got our noses ahead, that's exactly how it felt. I think it's a bit overkind on them beating our press in that first 15-30 minutes. I didn't necessarily agree totally with that. I thought it was just that it wasn't necessarily breaking the press. It's just they kind of overran in midfield a little bit. They were showing it. They felt like they were right, but then they burnt out. I don't know if it was a fitness thing with Peterborough potentially, but then that's hard. it's hard to see why midfield works or doesn't work sometimes. We won the midfield battle at the weekend, and maybe it just broke them down after 30 minutes, and they couldn't live with us anymore. But no, he saw it pretty much exactly how we saw it, in that Town put in a performance there that Peterborough just couldn't really live with. And at the end of the day, it didn't even feel like much of a competition, really. It just felt like we were there and we could kind of open them up at will in that second half. I know we didn't score, but it just felt like we had a... And this was the thing, Matt, that stuck with me more than anything, I reckon, that it felt like we had another gear to go up. Even though we were playing so well and controlling the game and all A's were out, it still felt like if we needed to notch it up a level, we could have. And again, that's more than I thought we could do at any point in the season, never mind just one game in. But looking at this second half going on here between Town and Morecambe, the second half not being as good as the first, has it, Matt?
No, there's some nice passing routines though that I've just watching come in Town, playing the ball wide and then working it back into the middle and then working into the channels really well. So there's actually some really effective patterns of play, and it just feels like Town are working on something at the minute. So they've kind of they know they've got the game in the bag, and they just seem to be trying different little passages here and there, and it's interesting. I mean, Ollie Turton started quite a lot of the attacks from the right centre back. He's played the ball into an advanced midfield area quite a lot, which has been quite good. Kean Harritt's dropping in quite well as well, and Jaheim Headley's been fantastic this game. He's been man of the match, hasn't he? He's been absolutely
he's
phenomenal.
been great.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal this game. In 6, I know Hoggy's come on now, so Kasuma's playing 8 and he's charging down the right hand side at the minute. Hoggy's looked really good since coming on. He looks like a spring chicken, doesn't he? He's fizzing some passes in his Hoggy. Maybe he just heard me before he came on and went, I'm going to show that fat dickhead what it's about, and he's come on and he's slotting them around. But I asked for some questions. I asked so the group. So we are in front of a live YouTube audience, and I have asked if anybody's got any questions. So I'll push them in. So Jack's got some amusing ones. So he's put, now the club is definitely seemingly much more professional. What was your favourite moment from the banter era? Phil Hodgkinson annoyed on Twitter, or Nagel offering out the ginger ogre for a fight, which I think was his. I mean, there's been lots of things that I've been party to, and I don't think they've made public consumption as well.
Are you going to spill one, Matt? Matt, are you going to spill one here? Are you going to spill one?
No. I'm just watching Jaheim Headley just almost score. No, but we'll gloss over that. But just things like Danny. Do you remember Danny Simpson? The Danny Simpson situation where he was
Yes.
during COVID allowed to. He ended up leaving because they wouldn't. Because I think Danny Cowley had promised him something, and then they eventually blamed it on Lee Bromby, didn't they? Which was a bit unfair to kind of. Which was fun, but there's so many things. And I mean, Phil Hodgkinson was wild, wasn't he, for a little bit? But I think he did do some good as well at the club. I think that sometimes gets a bit overlooked, that he made some good decisions in terms of managers. I thought Danny Cowley was the right person at the right time, and I thought removing him for Carlos Corberán was the right move at the right time. Although maybe give Danny Cowley the season. He left with one game left, didn't he? But bringing in Corberán, I thought was a good move as well. So I think he did do some good things, but there were some moments where his impulsive nature got the better of him, like arguing with fans on Twitter and things. I mean, Kevin Nagel does that a little bit now, but I think Kevin's humor might be a little bit different, and I think he tries to say things humorously sometimes, but there's no tone, is there, when you tweet? So I think sometimes that might get lost, like when he calls people Mr. Negative and things. I think he's just kind of having a laugh and joke, but because there's no tone on there, I don't think it comes across. I think people can take it however they want to take it. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of moments, hasn't there, Jay, where over the last 5 years, where, I mean, what was his name who came and Zach, wasn't he, did that highlights reel of Umar Nias and his main highlight being him saying how he goes to Tesco on his bike to keep fit.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the one. That's the one.
That was his biggest contribution to Huddersfield Town, and then within, I mean, Elijah Adebayor deal and left Luton, taking him for a cheaper price than what we were going to pay for him, and then we brought in Yaya Sanogo and Umar Nias, and that was just I mean, and Umar Nias's injury. I mean, did you see the video of when he did the splits? And I'm not
Oh
surprised
my
his
God, yeah,
groin split. It was horrendous, wasn't
oh,
it? He's literally
that was
and
awful.
I felt a bit sorry for him because he seemed like a really nice bloke, didn't he? But I mean, that was peak Huddersfield Town, wasn't it?
Oh, it
Going on
was.
about getting a striker for ages and then bringing one in, and he does the splits in a behind closed doors game within 40 minutes of signing, and then he's out for months. I mean, that was. I'm sure there's lots of other things as well. I mean, lots of other stuff, isn't that? You could probably throw in at this point. Dean Hoyle's saying he's going to take Huddersfield Town into administration if he can't get a deal or whatever it was. Wasn't it after was it after I can't remember who we played. Was it the Sheffield United game where he was in the White Rose Club? Maybe. I mean, that was quite bleak. Well, all sorts, isn't there? Where you look back over the last 5 years and think, thank God that's ended. And now Kevin Nagel and he's got his team in, hasn't he? And they're making positive change now. They seem to have got themselves on, feet under the table now, and they seem to be pushing forward with positive change and stuff like the stadium's really good. And we've got an owner now who gets everything, I think, holistically, whereas before maybe we haven't had that holistic approach to everything. Whereas it was, I think, things were kind of more. And I get it. We kind of the whole focus was what happens on the field, and everything off it didn't really matter. But now I think we've got an owner where everything matters, and I think it's really refreshing. And since he's come in, I know he was swimming against the tide a lot, and a lot of it wasn't really his fault. They really had to learn the hard way, didn't they? But I think, especially since the summer, I think they've regrouped really well as a board and pushing in the right direction. Jay, I don't know if there's anything sticks out for you in the last sort of 5-6 years as banterous, as Jack has put it?
Oh, there's a lot. Some stuff I probably can't speak about publicly, but no, there's been a lot. I mean,
I think I think you just say Mark Fotheringham. I think that's one of them, isn't it? That some of some of his post-match stuff. Oh dear.
No, Matt, you got the best.
Now,
My favourite, Matt, was, as you mentioned previously, after the Lincoln game with Mr. Hodgkinson on the phone, clearly visibly unhappy with what had just gone on, and everyone kind of put 2 and 2 together and thought, hang on, there might be a sacking on the board here. And sure enough, there was very shortly afterwards. I'm pretty sure, I think it might have been denied that's what was going on the part, but Radio Leeds kept talking about what were happening on the field after that game, and that was something ridiculous. But one of my favourite points was also, I think it's before that era, was it when Jason Davidson left, Matt, and he gave an interview about how influential he was while at Huddersfield Town.
That was a huge Australian publication as well, wasn't it? It was like the world thing, and he ran about how he took the set pieces and how he was like the star man, didn't he? And then that was bizarre, and then how he was stylish and nobody understood why he wore Ugg boots or something like that. Was there?
We couldn't find a good breakfast. That was Eric Durham.
Eric Durham and his toast, wasn't it?
Yeah, Eric Durham and his toast. Honestly, that was amazing.
I know where Eric Durham lived in Mirfield, and I know that he passed 2 bakeries on the way to the ground, on the way to Canalside. So I've got no idea what he's on about, apart from maybe Canalside where he gets there and there's toast or whatever. But
yeah, Jack's mentioned Colin Bell as well. Didn't we just bring him in and like 2 weeks later we were gone? We did that with a few.
Yeah, he left.
Came in, stole my hair, didn't he, and then left. But there was the other guy was there shorter though. Who was the Spanish guy that we got from Watford who recommended Joe Hungbo? And he came in to help Narcis Pelak, didn't we? And then we sacked them all and brought Warnock in. He left when we brought Warnock in. I think he was there like 4 weeks or something, wasn't he? The new coach, I can't. Watford. And then we brought him in as a first team coach, and then he left within about 4 weeks. I mean, we burnt through some coaches, didn't we, at some point, trying to get the right stuff. But anyway, thanks for that, Jack. He's asked another one as well, and which is another one. He says, has Michael Duff cleared out the Lyland Scott section at TK Maxx? Jacket on tonight after a t-shirt at Peterborough. The shades, I mean, remember when we used to love Carlos Corberan, didn't we, for his chinos and his New Balance, didn't we? If Michael Duff ends up being the Lyland Scott guy, then fair enough. He's going to be the Lyland Scott guy. But yeah, I think when you're looking at quirks like that, then there's a liking for the manager, and I think that's a good sign, really, don't you?
It's a bit different than Scott Parker wearing his £1,400 bomber jacket yesterday at the Burnley game. I don't know if you saw that. It was in the papers today. Yeah,
I couldn't take my eyes off his hair. It's all like he's put it through like a curling machine, didn't he? That had the curling tongs on it at the back, didn't he? Bizarre. Right, what else we got? Clive says he was holding back from saying Evans is our new Aaron Moy. I mean, you can't. Aaron Moy was just something different, wasn't he? Jason B says New York tuning in. Town looking great. This is a second half to cruise now. Calm down, Killer. You're getting fired at, and I love it.
On what? Like, I don't even know what I've said that can upset anybody here.
You deserve it.
You
deserve everything you get, mate. You deserve everything. Ryan Windle says, hello, guys. I was there Saturday. You still think 7th, Killer? This is all fire at Killer, and I'm loving it.
This is how people turn right wing eventually, isn't it? Like, this is what, when you're not on social
you're the new
media,
Darren Grimes. Is this what you're saying?
Then you're just seeing that controversy creates cash, or whatever people say. I don't think we're going to be 7th. We're further forward than I thought we were going to be at this point by miles. I spoke about this. I still don't think the centre backs are quite there just yet. I thought we needed to change a pace striker, but already today seeing Callum Marshall again, against League 2 opposition, but you can see already he's going to offer something we don't have. I'd be very disappointed at this point if we don't finish in the top 6. Absolutely. I did watch a few games at the weekend. Like I said, Reading, Birmingham both look good. Birmingham, obviously, and Reading's a team Matt and I picked out in our season preview, that they might be somebody that could do really well this year, and they look very good this weekend. So there are some good teams still about in League One, but no, if we don't make top 6 with what we've got, then I think something's gone wrong somewhere, because we're far further ahead, even just on tonight and Saturday, than I expected anyway. And I'll admit when I'm wrong. I'm wrong rarely, but I'm wrong on that one. I think we should be, not comfortable at top 6, but we should be up there.
I mean, Jack's come up with a couple of good questions, but slating Colin Bell's hair is like slating my hair, Jack, because I swear he stole my locks, and that's pretty much we pretty much have the same hair. As the song went for the episode 100 as well, with Colin Bell stole Matt's hair. Jason Davidson, he says he's the worst left back you've ever seen. Honestly, Jack, if you've seen Jason Davidson, you haven't seen Kevin Sharp. That was horrendous back in the day. But he does make a good point as well about how Lauren Departure was upset about only having one shitter at Canalside. That was classic, wasn't it? The grass was too long and there was only one shitter. That was just big, wasn't it? Premier League club, I'm leaving, and I've been out injured, sulking for the last 9 months because there's only one toilet at the training. I mean, come on. There were lots of excuses. I mean, it was interesting to see Lauren Departure's career after leaving Huddersfield went exactly as it did when he was at Huddersfield, and that was he started off. There's a lot of that with his career. And then Ryan Windle's just put Scott Bevan randomly in the chat. I don't know what that's about, but there we go. Jonathan Ford says, hey, up from Long Beach, California, home of that recent closing Olympic ceremony with Snoop. Wasn't Venice Beach. I saw that. That was actually really good. I'm quite looking forward to that Olympics. Met Jonathan, actually. Came all the way over for that Sheffield United game where we stayed up when Neil Warnock scored. Came all the way over for that one game, and that is dedication to get from that area to Huddersfield versus Sheffield United on what was a Thursday night. So, Jonathan, fair play to you on that one. It was good to meet you as well. He's a good guy. We'll have to get him on the podcast one day as well. So, thanks for those questions. Huddersfield Town have beaten Morecambe by 3-0. So we're advanced to the second round of the League Cup. I don't even know what the cup's round, which is good for us. I'm going to turn this off the TV now and focus on you guys. We might have a special guest in a few moments after that, just to fill us in on that actual game. But closing through as well now. Sky Sports Plus sacking it off after 90 minutes was quite interesting, wasn't it? I mean, Jay's had all sorts of issues with Sky Sports Plus today. He's had issues with StreamYard as well. You're not having much fun over there tonight, AJ. It seems quite stable. At one point tonight, there was someone at your house was definitely taking the bandwidth there.
I don't know what's going on. It's only stable now because I've put it on the hotspot. So, yeah, I'll have to, get a new router or something.
Or tell whoever it is who's watching YouTube to stay off it. That's why I have that problem where if I'm doing a podcast, sometimes my 6-year-old, if we do it quite early, my 6-year-old's upstairs watching rubbish on YouTube, and it kills the bandwidth, and sometimes mine gets really glitchy. Right. Okay. So, Callum Marshall tonight. We're impressed with Callum Marshall. Look good, didn't he? I mean,
absolutely. He looked fantastic, man. He looked a turn of pace, but not just that. The determination, like for the Danny Ward goal. Is that the one that he worked hard at down right hand side? Fantastic work that. He's done the dirty work, lost the ball, won it back with a slide tackle. Really, and the thing is, 9 out of 10 strikers at that point just kind of leave it. Fullbacks won it back. You might just shadow him a little bit. You normally foul him if you really want to bite in there.
I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there because reporting. Hang on a second. Let's bring him in.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, let's bring him in. Reporting live from the stadium, we have David Hartrick. Dave, how are you doing?
All right. Can you hear me all right?
Right, Dave's obviously befallen the same Wi-Fi as Jay as well. Dave, you've been at the game today as well. How did the game go? You talked to me briefly in WhatsApp about being really impressed with Town's shape today, but you've been really high on what you've seen to use a Hartrickism. Yeah, you've been very high on what you've seen so far from Duff in terms of the shape.
Yeah, I just think they look a really well coached side. You know, they've shuffled the pack tonight, brought several players in, and they look exactly the same. Same shape, same patterns, same runs, players appearing in the same area. So that tells me that the squad is getting properly coached. They're getting properly managed, and be impressive. You know, there's no point getting carried away at this point of the season. There's a lot harder tests to come. But at the same time, you're looking for patterns, you're looking for sort of consistent things and repetitive things they're doing well. And yeah, it is good. It is good at the moment. And I do think a lot of that is about Duff and what he's done with them so far.
What did you make of the debut of Callum Marshall then? Because he's come in at the end of last week. To us, watching it on Sky Sports Plus, he looked very lively, and he looks like someone who adds something slightly different to what Town have already got in the building.
Yeah, but he plays a lot like Reece Healy. I think he's probably got a start on Saturday after a goal and assist, and I think having 2 Reece Healys up front might not actually be a bad thing. Yeah, he looks lively, plays on the front foot, looks to drive, loves taking a man on clearly, but I think he looks a bit raw still. You can tell from 1 or 2 of his runs he looks a bit raw. He just needs football, doesn't he? Just needs some football. When he came off on 60 minutes, he looked absolutely gassed to me. So he needs to play some football, I think, before you're going to get a proper 90 minutes out of him. But he'll get there. And I was talking to 1 or 2 people before. Apparently, his like sort of attitude and approach well up there. Apparently, someone described him to me as a mentality, believe it or not, before the game. Just said he was properly into it, desperate to succeed as a professional footballer. But I was too busy watching Tommy Bender, to be honest with
you. You're dipping in a little bit in and out there, but for me personally, I think Jaheim Headley really stood out during this game. He's just breezing past people. I know some people will say it's Morecambe. But I think from where this Town squad have been in terms of confidence, it was good to see Jaheim Headley full of it and just really sort of have an enjoyable run out tonight. And he really looked to me like he was causing all sorts of havoc.
Yeah, but he had loads of space to run into as well. I think they had an absolute nightmare on the side Morecambe. But it's good to see him on the front foot again because he sort of went into his shell a bit, didn't he? And he now looks to be much more confident, much more expansive. So, yeah, but I mean, both wing backs, whoever plays, all they do is just bomb on and on and on and on and on, isn't it? It's exciting. Every time Sorensen got anywhere near the ball in the ground, the whole crowd was on the edge of their seat. That's whether it's Miller, Headley, Sorensen, whoever. That's great to see. We've not had that down here for a long time with any player. Now,
me and you share a liking of a player in terms of his technical ability. I had to quickly clarify that, didn't we? Tommy Pender is a player me and you both like. We both signed up members of the fan club, aren't we? We could even steal the Josh Karoma conch and turn that into a Tommy Pender one. He looked good, didn't he, today? I know you can caveat that with the opposition, but in terms of a young man, you know, it's not. I don't think it's his first start. Is it his first start? But he came through that fantastically well, didn't he? And playing on the right of midfield there and coming onto his left foot, and you can see there's so much talent there and potential. And it's hard not to get overly excited, Dave, isn't it? Sometimes with him.
He's absolutely brilliant. He's superb. The second goal comes just from him intelligently stepping into an area and breaking play up and playing a simple ball, and that's kind of what he's all about. There was a couple of moments where he moves forward where he just covers the ground in a different way. I think he's one of them that you don't want to build somebody up too much because a lot can happen and a lot can go wrong. But like, he has got all of the ingredients. And the main problem is, though, who would you drop to play him at the minute?
Dave, speaking of ingredients, we'll let you go in a minute because I think the signal's dipping in and out a little bit. Jack says, please.
Town have improved this summer, except in the Wi-Fi department.
Maybe we need a new one. Jack says, please can you ask Dave if he's tried the new Walker's flavors, the sausage and ketchup sarnie? I think you had a mention of this on your podcast, didn't you? I mean, it's not tomato ketchup unless you're a child, right?
I'm a child, though. That's the problem. I am a child. I've not tried them yet because I've not found them, but you mark my words, I will do as soon as I hunt them down. I'm going to have to go because you're dipping in and out now. This Wi-Fi is absolutely rubbish. Next time I'll do it on my 4G, Matt.
Have a word with Mr. Threlfall Sykes and Mr. Nagel, maybe, see if you can get something going. Dave, thanks for joining us. Have a great night, pal.
See you all. Bye.
There we go. Dave Hartrick, not Threlfall Sykes. I'd love Dave Threlfall Sykes on the podcast. It'd be good. Yes. So there we go. So a good night for town. Really good night. There's a couple of things that we've got left. I actually have done an interview with Chris Hall from Albion Analytics. So just on the subject of Callum Marshall, he spent a period of time on loan at West Brom last season, and I had a chat with Chris. Hopefully there's no more sex pest heavy breathing, absolutely shambles breathing into the microphone like an asthmatic fat man. But here we go. Chris from Albion Analytics on Callum Marshall and how he did last year at West Brom.
Hi Chris, thanks for coming back onto the podcast with us. So Huddersfield Town have just signed Callum Marshall. I know that he didn't particularly play a lot with you guys last season, but I'm just wondering whether you could give us a little rundown on the qualities of Callum Marshall and maybe how they would apply to a League One level, having perhaps not broken through at Championship level.
No, thank you for having me, mate. Yeah, I mean, look, it is difficult for me to say because, as you quite rightly say, we didn't see an awful lot of Callum Marshall, very, very little, if truth be told. The most minutes that we saw from him was against Southampton in a game where at the Hawthorns, where we were roundly beaten just in sort of around February time, and he did look a bit out of his depth, it has to be said. He struggled to really contribute, but equally, I mean, a lot of Albion players did that day. And also, it's worth mentioning that was a team that went on to get promoted to the Premier League, you know, one of the best teams in the league. So, I mean, I wouldn't judge him too harshly on that. The problem for Callum really was that he was being asked to come into a team that was already challenging for playoffs and get up, and he'd never had a senior loan before, and get up to speed extremely quickly. And it was a massive ask to get yourself to the level of top six Championship and be able to play at that level. And we had other options. We had, you know, Brandon Thomas Asante, but we had Jed Wallace who could play there as well. And in the end, Carlos Corberán went with experience. I think some of the noise around Callum didn't necessarily help him at the time because there was a bit of a sort of public feud between some of his family members and Carlos on X, where they responded to a few posts by West Ham blogs who weren't happy with the fact that Callum had gone on loan and wasn't playing, and his family sort of commented on them, and the comments got recycled, and you know I can't imagine it helped Callum's cause is all I'm saying. I understand where his family's coming from. They're frustrated for the lad that he's gone on loan, he's not playing, but equally, yeah, like I say, I don't think it helped his cause. In terms of his qualities, I mean, what we've seen from him in Premier League 2 football and also in bits and bobs for Northern Ireland is he's a finisher. I mean, he knows where the back of the net is. He's technically a very good player. He doesn't seem to be too worried by the physical side of it. He's quite quick as well, and he can drop in and play a little bit. He showed this in a few nice touches, not really the finishing because he never really got a chance to, but certainly his sort of link-up play showed that quite nicely in very, very brief moments at Albion. But like I say, it was just, we just didn't see a great deal of him. So, I mean, we're probably ultimately still going off the same things that you guys are, which is his Premier League 2 form and what he showed for Northern Ireland as well.
There we go. So thanks to Chris for popping on the podcast and giving the West Brom side to Callum Marshall. I mean, the Callum Marshall we saw tonight was quite exciting, wasn't it? So unfortunately, they didn't get much chance to see him last year. And obviously, there's a drop in level, which hopefully will suit him as well. Fantastic. Right. So last thing on my agenda point before we call it a day is Jay. Now you're on the hotspot. Drop it like it's hotspot, like Snoop Dogg. You are starting a new show this Saturday, aren't we? That we're all getting very excited about. So, in terms of Andy Takes That Chance, what we're going to do this season is Jay and Joel will be doing a post-match recovery show on Saturday after the game. We will be recording the review. That's what we're calling the main show now, the review, as you may see if you're watching on YouTube in the top corner. We'll be recording that on a Monday or Tuesday, which will give Jay and Joel's show a little bit of time to breathe and a little bit of time for you to listen to it. And then me and Killer will be doing a very short warm-up, which we'll release on Thursday, just looking at the forthcoming game. And you'll have 3 podcasts from us a week. Jay, tell us about the exciting new one.
So, post-match recovery show. Me and Joel, we're going to aim to every week, whether it's home or away, get some pretty much immediate reaction from either around the grounds, outside the ground, or technology might get in our way. So it might mean, obviously it's got in my way today, it might mean we do a live, kind of like a StreamYard live after the game, which gives you all a chance to sit down after the game and reflect, and hopefully we'll get some guests on. I know Matt was saying some of the lads on the pod might want to fill in. So yeah, basically post-match sit down and really have a good debrief and a chat about how Huddersfield Town are playing, how they've played, and hopefully cover a lot of wins.
I like the Jay is definitely a lot more ambitious than Killer in terms of watching Huddersfield Town win this season. It's all pile on Killer in it tonight. So, Killer, thanks for you for popping on. I know you actually do see a lot of good in Huddersfield Town this coming year. So I think it's some of this stick's probably a little bit misplaced, but it's been a good few days, hasn't it? So a 2-0 win against Peterborough on Saturday, a fantastic start to the season. And a 3-0 win against Morecambe tonight, and we're through to the second round of the League Cup, which is really, 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 really almost unheard of, isn't it? So, just round us off, mate, with what you've seen, and tell us how happy you are as well, and how Huddersfield Town are going to win the league and the League Cup and League One double.
Am I digging myself out of a hole here, Matt? Is that what I'm attempting?
Giving you that opportunity, yeah.
Peterborough couldn't have gone any better, could it? You've got your 2 new centre midfielders. I'm saying new. I know Wiles was here for a year, but it looks like a totally new player. They've bagged. Tonight, you've got your 2 fringe strikers. I think Karoma should have scored, actually, a couple when he came on later on. But you've got Marshall and Ward that have both bagged today, which is what you want your strikers who are not starting to do. So they're trying to fight their way back into the team. Hartrick reckons Marshall should start, didn't he? Is that what he said? Breaking news. Hartrick thought Marshall's deserves a start.
Goal and assist, goal and assist.
From his goal and assist tonight.
As Darren Moore used to say, goals and assists, goals and assists. Yep.
We couldn't have had a better start from the first two games. We could not. I think coming out of it, we're far further forward in our kind of progression to being a solid team that are going to dictate play and score goals and be the aggressor against lesser teams. I'm using quotation marks there because I don't like to refer to a football team as a lesser team, but a team lower down in the table with lower expectations than what we have here at Huddersfield. It couldn't have been any better. And it's really nice to have a cup game like tonight where you score early doors, pressure's off, you can enjoy it. And they really went at it for the first 45 minutes. I think, like you say, Matt, for that second 45 tonight, we've passed it around a little bit, probably worked on a few other things, kind of treated it a bit like a friendly where you're looking for little tiny small phases of play within the general scheme of the game rather than just trying to score goal after goal after goal. It's like you're looking at little different things. To me, though, what I've taken out of tonight with Hildred going off at half time, I thought there was a little bit of a drop in the defence in that second half. And again, that is nitpicking. I'm not saying we're awful without Hildred. I just think he's going to be really important for us to keep him for our season goals going forward. But going into Stevenage on Saturday, we couldn't be in a better position, could we? Just from, what is it, Tuesday today? So Saturday, Sunday, 4 days. It feels like a very, very big 4 days. And it feels like we're in a different place now to where we were then.
Absolutely. So thanks to everyone for joining us tonight. You can watch this back if you've only just joined us live. And that's the end of the show for now. Thanks for bearing with us. Thanks for bearing with us during, I think all three of us have had technical issues at some point with Wi-Fi, trying to watch a game and stream at the same time. It's not as easy as it looks, but we've probably waffled a lot as well to try and buy time at certain moments as well, because I knew that we probably needed 15 minutes till halftime. I knew we needed time to extend the time a little bit to get Dave on at the end as well. So I was trying to sort of delay a little bit and make things up at that point as well. So it's been fun, and we might do more of these as well. The Bristol Street Motors games in particular, we might record whilst they go on and do something similar. If that's what people like, then we'll try and do our best for that. If you don't like it, then it saves us having to do a live stream and we can actually go to the games. But thanks everybody, and we'll be back with the warm-up on Thursday.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.